Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace. We are back after a week layoff while I was away for Labor Day vacation. All this crazy stuff has happened since I left, and there's been some great games that have come out. I'm swearing to you guys, we have an amazing episode today. And alongside me to do that is Matt Kyle. How are you, Matt?
All right.
Did you do anything for Labor Day ultimately?
Not really.
No?
Watched some movies. Stayed inside.
Yeah.
It was very warm.
It's like crazy. I was on the East Coast. It was like 100 degrees and like 95% humidity. What do you expect from the East Coast in the summertime? I get in a plane, I'm like, oh, finally going back to California where the weather's going to be nice. There's going to be no humidity. Back here, it's like almost as bad here as it was back there. It's insane how hot it's been.
Unusual humidity here.
There's humidity. There's never humidity.
Like Wednesday and Thursday, it was raining.
Yeah,
and it was like all gray. And it did not look like LA.
It felt like the East Coast. Yeah. I brought it back with me, the weather that I had on the East Coast. But anyway, glad to be back. Glad to be back doing GameFace. I definitely missed you guys and missed doing the show. I don't know if Matt did, but here and there, más o menos. And again, there's been a couple big games that have dropped while we've been gone. We're going to talk about those today. There's been like 3 huge events. We're going to talk about those today. We have a gigantic show, and my biggest fear right now is that we don't get through the whole show. It's going to be tight getting it in under 3 hours today, so I don't want to spend too much time on the intro. I hope that you guys, at least our American viewers, had a chance to enjoy Labor Day and get some time away and hang out with family, maybe hit a barbecue or two. I did a big fantasy football draft with my old crew from Philly, and that was awesome. Got to go to Philly for the first time in a while, because I've been going to that draft, but now they all live in the burbs, so I don't always get into Philly proper. But the first night I got there, one of my buddies was DJing at a club event, and so after that was over, he took me on a little mini tour of Philadelphia, and oh my gosh, that city has completely transformed. I was blown away by how much that city has improved. Like, I don't know if any of you guys are from Philly. If you are, you probably don't realize it because you see it all the time. Like, my friends there are like, what are you talking about? To me, it was like mind-blowing how much they've developed that city, particularly North Philadelphia, which is where I went to school at Temple, which is generally one of the worst neighborhoods in the United States. Not exaggerating, it just is. And even from like City Hall all the way to Temple, 2-mile stretch, all redone. There were these old theaters back in the day when I went to school there that were crack houses. They've now completely redone the theaters back to the way they were in like the 60s. It's amazing. I really got to hand it to Philadelphia. They've really turned it around. It's great to see. But anyway, again, I don't want to spend a ton of time on housekeeping today because we have a lot to get to. I saw a couple people in chat wondering like what's up with my vacation to Greece. That is coming in the second week of October. So I think we leave on October 15th or whatever, and then we're gone for like 10 days. So we got a good 4 or 5 episodes here of GameFace in a row before I take off for my first vacation in a really, really long time, as far as a real vacation anyway. But that's mid-October, just to let you guys know. So just be prepared for a little bit of a down period in the middle of October, and then I'll be back in plenty of time to kick Q4's ass for you guys here on GameFace. Before we get going, if you're listening to this show on a podcast service, and the show's on all of them, it would be great if you could help us out. Head to patreon.com/sifted, SIFTD, with no E. All the money we make comes from our Patreon. And if you want to help us, that's the best way to do it. You can give us $1, $1 billion a month, whatever you want. The only thing I'll say is if you want to get all our content early, it's $4 a month, which I think is lower than most Patreons, if I'm not mistaken. It seems like a lot of them have gone up while we've stayed the same. So anyway, if you want to help us, that's a great way to do it. Or you can help us with Twitch Prime, and instructions if you're watching on YouTube to do that are down below. And with that, Matt, I think we really got to get going because this show is going to be insane. And today, this morning, there was a Nintendo Direct. And Matt, I would say this was Nintendo's E3 press conference. They've had a couple little things since like they would have had their E3 thing, but this was like the big blowout. I mean...
Well, it's like, what are we doing for the rest of the year?
Yeah, and as it turned out, like the first half of 2023 as well. And there was just tons and tons of announcements in this. I'll be honest with you, I chopped it way down. Like, we're going to talk about 7 or 8 things, and there was probably, 30? My guess.
About that, yeah.
Like 30 announcements. Like, the email that Nintendo sent me was like 3 pages long to provide synopsis of everything that it was.
If you like farming RPGs.
Today was your day.
Or Square games with weird titles.
Yeah, but this is one of the rare cases where us doing a show on Tuesday is working out. We're able to deliver our takes on all the stuff that happened in the Nintendo Direct today, literally just hours after it actually happened. I love it when a plan comes together. Obviously, Matt, the biggest news from this Direct is we finally have the subtitle for the sequel to Breath of the Wild, and it is called The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Timing's a little odd.
Sorry, UK. Whoops.
Yeah, I think Nintendo actually canceled airing. Not that it matters with the internet, but I think Nintendo UK did not air.
Stream it.
Yeah, I don't think they streamed the thing.
Which, like, if I was a Nintendo fan in the UK, I'd be pretty pissed about that. I'm just like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Come on.
I don't want to get too far into it, but I will say that the royal family is one of the most confounding things. I'll never understand why people care about it.
I mean, I'm descended from Irish people. You know what I think. So.
Yeah. I mean, like, I respect people's opinions or whatever. I do not understand the royal family at all, personally. If I were running Nintendo,
I don't think I would never have connected those two things in my head. I mean, I know I'm not from the UK, so I get that. Probably, I'm not surrounded by it constantly like you are there. But like, come on.
How about the timing?
Imagine being at Nintendo and knowing that's the name of it, and then the Queen dies, and you're just like, oh, come on, like.
I mean, they've obviously known the subtitle for this game for a long time.
That is a huge world there.
What is going on? Okay, let's start talking about this trailer here, Matt, because first of all, it's only 45 seconds long, but it does show some revelations, I guess is the best way to put it, as far as what we've known about the game so far. It appears that there's this whole other world up in the sky, and we knew there was some element to that.
It's just Skyward Sword again.
Do you think it is?
I mean, that seems, there's stuff up in the sky and there's stuff down on the ground. I mean, they mentioned that before, that there's going to be aerial stuff.
They did.
So, I mean, that makes sense, and it seems like there's some kind of thing where you're bringing color back to the lower world or something, because there's that one shot where he's lower going up on a boulder, and the boulder's in color, and the stuff above is in color, and the ground is black and white. I'm not really sure what's happening there.
There's some kind of a puzzle element between the ground and the air worlds, is what I would say. That's what it seems like to me, anyway.
I mean, it seems like a safe bet with Zelda.
And then, have they got rid of the stamina, Matt?
God, I hope so.
Do you think so? I mean, that shot right there tells me, and this shot tells me.
I mean, also, all that tells me is they don't have the HUD on.
Yeah. Look how high up. I mean, it wasn't about the lack of a HUD for me, though. It's what they're doing. So it's like, if you're going to hold on to a boulder that flies up into the sky, it seems to me that having a stamina meter, if that's a big mechanic of the game, would be a detriment to the mechanic.
Maybe. I mean, I would be hugely in favor of getting rid of the stamina meter. But,
agreed.
I have a hard time believing they would do that, because it's kind of like the trademark of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, maybe your stamina...
Look at this shot right here. Look how high off the ground.
Yeah. But also, he could have just glided over to that.
He could have.
Like, I don't trust it until we see some gameplay.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's set in stone. I'm just saying there's some subtle hints here.
I would be shocked if they got rid of the stamina. The stamina, maybe extend it, maybe make it more forgiving.
Yeah.
But, like, I would be stunned if they got rid of the stamina.
Yeah.
That is Breath of the Wild.
It kind of is, for better or worse. I mean, for worse, in my opinion. I hated the stamina.
I'm not a fan of it, really, no. And I'm not...
climbing up the wet rocks with the stamina, I do not want to do that again.
I mean, I hope they adjust that, because it's like when it rained in that game, it was just like, okay, I'm just going to wait here until the rain stops, because otherwise I can't climb anything effectively. But I like,
what's up with this thing here? What is that?
Clearly, it's his sky wing.
Does he have does he have a ship now?
No, I think that's just
instead of having the bird to fly around on.
I'm sure he also has the parachute.
Yeah,
the hang glider. But it just seems to be his way of getting around, in the air. Cause
instead of having the birds like in Skyward Sword. Yeah. Were you a fan of that duality in Skyward Sword?
I mean, I don't mind it, but they didn't really do anything with it.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of pointless, honestly.
It was just sort of another load screen.
Well, there were, like, sections where you had to fly the bird, like dogfighting.
It wasn't
and stuff.
Interesting, and you made me use all the stupid motion control. Like, it was, like, this looks better to me. Like, this is more it looks like an actual game mechanic instead of, like, a gimmick.
Yeah.
Where you're gonna do this huge world, and there's like an upper world and a lower world, and you got to let him get around, and you can't have him just glide everywhere, because he's you're powered flight, so you give him this little magic wing green goblin platform, and that's okay, cool, well, that's neat.
Are you surprised Nintendo doubled down on what most people consider one of the least popular Zelda games? Zelda 3D Zelda games, anyway?
Not really. I mean, it feels like there's a lot of potential to the concept of that world. They just didn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
honestly, this game could take place in a toilet and people would buy it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's true. Nintendo didn't really give us much details, even in the email that they sent me this morning. Here's some of the copy that was in there. It said...
I do note that wing thing he's on is pretty big for one person.
It is, yeah.
I still believe there's co-op in this game.
Maybe. That would be a big story. Here's a copy that they sent with the press release today, Nintendo. In addition to the vast lands of Hyrule, the latest entry in the storied Legend of Zelda series will take you up into the skies in an expanded world that goes beyond that.
Beyond that?
Mm-hmm.
Beyond what?
That's just how it ended.
Okay.
And an expanded world that goes beyond that.
Link's going to space.
I mean, we're in the heavens or something. I don't know.
Metroid crossover.
Yeah. But otherwise, this shows very little of the game.
Yeah.
It doesn't really give up much at all, except for most people, the most important part, which comes at the end, which is the release date. May 12th, 2023 for the new Zelda. How long will it have been in development at that point? Is that 8 years?
Oh, that would be...
No, it's not 8.
Breath of the Wild came out in 2017.
Right, yeah.
So it'd be
6 years. Yeah, that's a
little
long
over
time.
6 years.
That's a really long time. Does this new trailer and this announcement make you more excited for the game?
No, I guess in the sense that like there's an actual, date now is cool. I also, part of me is just like, let's watch it slip to November to coincide with the release of the new Switch.
Yeah,
so.
Possible. It's definitely possible. What do you think this says about the next Switch? Do you think it's coming in May?
It's either coming in May or maybe it's coming in the fall.
And then they'll delay this.
Either delay this or make you buy it again.
Yeah.
Or it'll just run better.
It'll just work
better on the...
You can buy it for...
There's part of me that looks at some of the stuff in that trailer and it's just like, you're going to get that to work on the Switch with that draw distance?
Yeah.
I mean, if so... I hope everyone at Monolith Soft got a raise because they're the one, the Xenoblade people are the ones making that stuff possible.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, Matt, watching my overall, and maybe I should have kept this for the end after we're done talking about all the games, but my overall feeling after watching this Direct is that I'm really starting to lose excitement for Switch software at this point. And it is due to the hardware limitations.
I mean, part of me appreciates that some of it is, only there. Like, I liked that the Front Mission remakes are coming. Like, that's cool. I like that series. I've never played the early ones because they never came here. So I'm like, all 3 of them are getting remakes on the Switch. Like, that's great. I'm excited about that. But I will admit that when other games are... I'm like, I'm interested. Like, the Front Mission remakes, I'm interested. But I did Google to see if they were on other platforms.
Right.
Because I would rather have them on something else.
Yeah.
But if it's exclusive to Switch, sure, I'll get it on Switch. Like,
it's like...
The Switch delivers, like, at least one thing I'm happy about every quarter, which is the same as that every Nintendo system has done
That's true.
Since the 90s.
Roughly accurate,
since the N64.
Yeah.
Which also had a quick moment today.
Like, I'm at the point now where I would probably prefer that they make Metroid Prime 4 for the next hardware.
I think they are. I'm pretty, or at least they've got their eye on it.
Yeah.
I think they're making it with the idea that it can run on that and they know what to do with it.
To me, it feels like it's close enough that if they start announcing stuff for the next Switch, I'm not really going to be all that upset about it like I would have been a couple years ago.
No, it's time to move on.
It's time, yeah. And that was the overall gist that I got from this, is like, it's time. It's time to move on from this old...
I mean, it's been time.
It has been time, yeah. And I think I've finally reached a point where I'm not getting as excited for Nintendo's new games as I probably should.
Yeah, and I'm not, like, it's like, as we've seen, like, I'm not as, and everything has to be like, oh, next gen, only a next gen, I don't care. But, like, Switch games don't really run very well.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. To the point that things like Fire Emblem Warriors, 3
Hopes.
3 Hopes?
Yeah.
What was that? What was that? 3 whatever?
Three Houses was
the fact that runs as well as it does is surprising.
It is.
It's always impressive. Or when Xenoblade 3 runs very well.
And it's interesting that it's the only platform left where you really consider that.
You worry about
Although there is a game that I played, we're going to talk about a little later in the show, where there were frame rate issues and I was shocked by it. But we'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, definitely the impact of Nintendo announcing new games now, it's a little muted compared to where it would have been 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, also there's not a lot of big stuff in here from Nintendo, really.
Yep.
It's just like weird little things or Pikmin.
Yep. Nice segue.
So,
as Matt just alluded to, finally, after all this time, Nintendo has officially announced Pikmin 4. The rumors have been circulating for forever that this game has been finished for years. And we always wonder on this show, okay, so when are they going to release the game? Finally, we get a look at the next Pikmin, and they even had Miyamoto introduce it. Miyamoto showed up in this direct.
Yeah.
It was good to see him. You start to wonder after a while, like...
He shows up to say nothing about
pretty much. Yeah, but Pikmin's one of his babies.
He'll show up for Pikmin. That's about it.
That's bizarre.
He loves Pikmin. I mean, Pikmin, I guess, was based on like his garden.
Yeah, his
home,
gardening.
So it's one of his big hobbies. So.
Yeah. But here's another trailer where it's 15 seconds long. It doesn't really show anything. And here's what Nintendo said in the press release for that. Pikmin 4, the latest entry in the adorably strategic Pikmin series, will be launching in 2023.
That said, maybe you don't draft it in the fantasy draft.
I'd say that's probably a safe bet. And all it really just shows is that this quick pan of the park with the napping Bulborb. And it's missing. There's no Pikmin in this, Matt. Have you noticed that?
Well, he hasn't crashed yet.
I guess you're right. But in the copy that Nintendo sent out, it said, where could they be? So there's something with the fact that there are no Pikmin.
Wherefore are the Pikmin?
Yeah.
Even though wherefore means why.
Yeah.
Why are the Pikmin is also a good question. What the hell are these things?
Yeah, so we got 2023 for Pikmin 4. Nothing specific about the part of the year which we'll be seeing it. But it's finally coming.
Feels like a late year.
Yeah.
Although, like it really would be, if it feels like a summer game to me, just in terms of tone. And Nintendo and specifically Miyamoto are the kind of people who would release a game at a certain time when they feel it's the right season for it. So maybe, but I don't know. You don't want to put anything too close to Zelda.
The other thing too is that they couched this Nintendo Direct as featuring games that are coming like in the near future. It was supposed to be like all the
springtime game too.
It could be
like a March, or an April.
It sounds like May is the furthest out most of these games are that they showed, which obviously is Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. So
I'm gonna guess Zelda gets made to itself for the most part.
Yes, that would be probably the best idea. And
I bet a lot of other publishers are wiping the sweat off the brow right now because they're like, thank God Q1 is not any more crazy than it already is.
Also, May is like a very safe month. Like most publishers aren't releasing big games in May. Nintendo knows it can do it because it can
Breath of the Wild
Zelda
was March.
Yeah,
and there was certainly some expectation that they might do March again because you pick the release date that worked before usually. But May's an interesting place to put it.
It doesn't matter.
No, not really.
It could release it any day of the year and it's still going to do great. So as you said earlier. So anyway, Pikmin 4 is finally coming. We finally have an announcement, but not a hard release date, just next year. Next up, Fire Emblem Engage. This was one of the few games that Nintendo...
For the Engage.
This is one of the few games that Nintendo showed that actually was a beefy presentation. The trailer for this is like 3 or 4 minutes long instead of like 30 seconds like a lot of the other ones were. It is the next mainline Fire Emblem strategy RPG, not to be confused with the game we mentioned earlier, which was a Musou hack and slash Fire Emblem game from Team Ninja. This is the legit one. Directly from Nintendo. There's also a pretty beefy write-up on this in the press release that Nintendo sent out. It read, in a war against the Fell Dragon, 4 kingdoms work together with heroes from other worlds to seal away this great evil. 1,000 years later, the seal was weakened, and the Fell Dragon is about to reawaken. As a divine dragon, so I guess you play as a dragon in this, which is...
You play as a dragon of light or something that was awakened after 1,000 years.
Yep. As a divine dragon, use rich strategies and robust customization to meet your destiny, to collect emblem rings scattered across the world and bring peace back to the continent of Elios and Celica, and add their power to yours in this new story. The turn-based tactical battle system the Fire Emblem series is known for returns with a fresh cast of characters you can customize and engage with to carefully craft your strategy. So, sounds like Fire Emblem, but you now have control of a dragon. Looks good though.
Yeah, I don't know how much dragoning he'll do, but it seems to be key to his ability to summon use those rings and summon the characters you recognize from the other Fire Emblem games.
Yep. Art style's a little different than Three Houses. The eyes are a little even more anime-y, if that is a word. They're definitely higher gloss. They got more of like the light refractions on the eyes than the last game did. But I feel like it looks pretty good. Yeah. But again, it's like this is all you're going to get out of the Switch at this point. This is max output for Nintendo's hardware at this point. Is it too soon for another Fire Emblem, Matt?
No, it's been a while.
It's been, what, 2 years since the last one?
Three Houses? Three
Yeah.
Houses was a while ago.
Was it longer than that?
I think so.
Yeah.
I can't remember when Three Houses was.
That game was so big that, like, I'll be honest with you, playing Three Hopes, the hack and slash, I was having flashbacks to Three Houses and all the time I spent, because so many of the mechanics in Three Hopes are the same. That I started having flashbacks. I started remembering.
2019.
It was 2019.
3 years ago.
Wow. So technically it's due. I don't know if personally I'm ready to play another gigantic 70-hour Fire Emblem game, though.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I think this game looks better than Three Houses, though. Like, the art style, it's more dramatic. The shadowing.
Yeah, it's clearly got a scope that the Three Houses didn't. Like,
Yeah.
Three Houses is more of like a Harry Potter go to school thing.
Yeah.
This seems to be more in the line of the older Fire Emblems, which were, continent spanning sagas.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I liked about Three Hopes was they kind of got back to that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm into it, and like the problem is that this is January.
January 20th,
Yeah.
2023.
There's a lot of stuff coming
There is.
at that time.
I mean, 2023 is just going to be an amazing year for games. It just is. It's going to just rock our world.
Like, I'll play this for as long as until something else comes out, like 5 days later that
Right.
pulls me away from it. It's 2023 is going to, especially Q1 is going to be
It's nuts.
hard to focus.
It's absolutely nuts. It's just going to be like 2 or 3 big games pretty much every week, which will be great for GameFace, but not so great for our sanity and our free time, that's for sure. But again, that is coming on January 20th, 2023, the next mainline.
The good news is there'll
Game
be
in the
plenty of
Fire
time to play it in the summer because there's nothing
That's true.
apparently coming in the summer.
This could be one of those games where I play like the first 20 hours or so for GameFace and then go back and finish it off like months later when things slow down.
I will say that guy's hair is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a little absurd. It reminds me of something, but I can't put my finger on it. I can't remember where. I don't know where the reference is coming from.
I don't know. To me, it looks like Pokemon Red and Blue came to life.
Okay.
And he's summoning Fire Emblem characters instead of Pokemon.
That's possible. That's possible. But anyway, that is Fire Emblem Engage. Again, it is coming exclusively to Switch on January 20th, 2023. Next up, a classic revived kind of Tales of Symphonia remaster. And this is a remaster.
Mm-hmm. This pretty much just looks like the PC version.
It really doesn't look like much work has been done on
like
this.
they've done a little touch-ups on the textures and the characters' faces and stuff.
Yeah.
But I played the PC version of this like a year or two ago.
I remember,
This really doesn't look all that different from it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it looks better than the
Fine,
GameCube version,
definitely. But
yeah.
We'll see how much I like this game, but we'll see how much this costs.
I loved this game when it came out. This game came out just as I was about to start working at Tech TV.
Yeah, that's right.
Like that week, I think it came out. And I had like a couple days off in between working at GameSpot and working at Tech TV. And I ended up just diving into this game and playing this. And it was like 65 hours or something insane.
More if you did everything.
Yeah, I mean, you'll definitely get your money's worth out of this.
It was two of those little discs.
Yeah, that's right. It was 2 discs. I forgot about that. And the story in this was pretty good, too.
Yeah.
It's not told very well. I mean, you can
but
see how the cinematics work in the game. But the story itself is pretty...
Yeah, it justifies its scope.
It does, yeah.
Kind of in a Suikoden way.
Yeah. I mean, the story is relevant and interesting all the way to the end. All the way to the 60-some hours. At least for me it was. So it's a great JRPG. One of the first, like, big action RPGs I would add from Japan. Back then, pretty much all JRPGs were still turn-based, but...
Well, Tales was always ahead of the curve in that regard.
It was.
Tales started that on the PS1.
Yeah. So if some of you guys are too young to remember Tales of Symphonia, Matt, would you recommend that somebody play it in 2023?
I don't know. It's a slow burn.
It is.
I mean, Tales of Arise is probably more the speed of someone today.
There's 5 other Tales games that feel more modern.
And even if you want to go back to this era, I would argue that Tales of the Abyss is probably the best one of of the PS2 GameCube stretch.
Probably.
I don't know where you play
really.
that now. I think this is such a slow burn. It's hard to get pushed through that initial 10 hours.
It is. Yeah.
Certainly was hard playing the PC version a couple of years ago. I'm like, I don't remember this being paced quite so glacially. But in reality, it's just I was used to it then.
Yeah, that's just the pace of everything was.
And now they're not.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, that was a difference.
It could use some work that I don't think it's going to get.
No,
probably.
A full remake could be, like, you incorporate a lot of the stuff they'd learned and incorporate it into the combat systems in the subsequent games.
Yeah.
Because Symphonia was a watershed for the series.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot more people found out about it.
Very well.
And like suddenly they got like some attention and some buzz. Like, I don't think you have Tales of Arise today without Tales of Symphonia on the GameCube. So it's a piece of history, I would say. So in that regard, it's probably worth playing if you haven't played it for some reason.
Yeah.
You can skip the Wii sequel.
Yeah.
But,
I still regret not buying that green Tales of Symphonia GameCube when I was in Japan, because that thing's worth so much money now.
I remember that.
It was just sitting there like on sale. Nobody was buying them.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, should I do it?
So all those things are. I remember back in the day going into Toys R Us with my mom, and they had a stack of Fortress Maximuses, the Transformer. It was red tagged for 50% off, which was $50, which was a lot then.
Yeah.
Originally they were $100,
yeah.
Which was crazy. From 1986, that's a lot of money. And I wanted one, and she's like, no, too much. And now of course they go for thousands. And so, and it's just what you think of it. It's like, there was a point where those were all on clearance.
Yeah.
And now they're the most sought after thing in the fandom.
Yeah, I wish I had bought a lot of GameCubes I saw in Japan back then, because those are worth a ton of money now.
A lot of those weird things.
They didn't release them here for the most part.
That weird Space Invaders thing. Remember that? Where it came with a little cocktail machine, and you put the PlayStation controller in it.
Yeah.
And you use the joystick and the buttons, and it somehow worked.
Yeah.
That was cool. I don't even know where that is now. It's in the garage somewhere.
You have it here.
Oh yeah, it's somewhere. But like
that's worth some money.
It is, but I would have to find it.
And hope it's not destroyed from moves or whatever.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's in one of those bins.
Yep. Okay, let's move on with the Direct from today. Next up, the Nintendo Switch Cloud Revolution continues with a slew of Resident Evil games to play on the cloud on Nintendo Switch. They announced 4 games today: Resident Evil Village, the Resident Evil 2 Remake, the Resident Evil 3 Remake, and Biohazard Resident Evil 7. All 4 games are coming to Nintendo Switch via the cloud. I feel like you could probably play these games on the cloud without too much issue.
Yeah, there's points where I feel like I wouldn't want that lag on some of the shooting.
Yeah.
Like that wouldn't like 2 and 3 the remakes maybe, but like I don't think I'd want to play 8 like that.
Yeah.
There's some stuff where you need the precision.
Yeah.
Sort of like with Control. Like I playing the demo of Control was like, oh, this ain't gonna work for me. Like it's 8 isn't that intensive in terms of the action stuff, but I would still rather not.
I would prefer to play it natively for sure, but
like there's literally no reason to play these if you have any other platform.
No, this is purely for Nintendo only people who don't have other consoles and can't play these games any other way. That's pretty much the only audience for these. And I'm sure they'll sell, 50,000 or 100,000 of each one of them. And that's more than enough to satisfy, like, just slapping them up on a server and letting people play them via the cloud on their servers or whatever. So I would actually like to... I just saw in the trailer there's a demo available for this. This week, I'm going to give that a go to see... I've never tried the Switch Cloud stuff to see how it plays. So I'm going to give that a go this week and see if it actually functions. Maybe somebody in chat has already tried it, and maybe they have some insight for us.
I tried it Control when they did the demo of that, and I did not find it acceptable.
I see people in chat are asking the same thing I am. Has anyone tried the Nintendo Cloud stuff yet? But it doesn't look like anyone has.
And Sneaky does have a good point. Like, if they were cheaper, it would be one thing, but they're not.
Yeah. Are they full price still?
I can't remember if they're full price, but like I think Control was like $50. I think Control was not cheap enough for me to just try it. Like without the demo. I remember that. I don't remember what it costs exactly.
Vincent says that every cloud version has a demo. I should have tried this before now, but I will this week. And that'll give me a frame of reference for this stuff going forward. Matter of Fact says, whatever Control used for Switch, it was great. Almost no lag and 60 frames per second.
I do not agree with that. Like I've played Control a fair amount, and I definitely noticed the control lag on it. It ran pretty smooth, but like in terms of frame rate, but I definitely noticed the difference, like from the very start.
All right.
It was not as snappy and responsive.
Lestevid, thank you for subscribing with Twitch Prime. I missed all you guys at the beginning of the show, actually, who subscribed. I'm going to run back real quick and see if I can get to those, because I always want to thank you guys if I can personally. AJ the Legend Watson, thank you for all the tier 1 subs you gave people. That's awesome. And here comes the Twitch Prime folks. Darmist, thank you. Toast9, thank you. Commander Fett, thank you. Erebus Jones, thank you. Too Quick Capri, thank you. Karma Lounge, thank you. I think that's it. Andy T. Monahan, thank you. Emperor Dread, thank you. Nexus 6 Batty, thank you. A lot of you guys jumping in. Yep, Tau Man, thank you for the bits. That's awesome, man. We appreciate it. I guess that's a welcome back gift, the bits. Vagrant X and Wampler 13, thank you as well for Twitch Prime. That is awesome. And you guys are awesome. So yeah, I will give some of that Resident Evil stuff a spin this week and check it out. Oh, there's more. Justin Horman, thank you. Ammo Clip 20, thank you for Twitch Prime. You guys are the best. And
Lestevid if you scroll up.
Oh yeah, I got him actually. He was the one I first started with.
Les Steve D.
Les Steve D. I always call him Lestevid. I think he's cool with it.
He's back.
Oh, and now he's gifting tier 1 subs. Thank you, man. That's awesome. Again, another reason to always show up at twitch.tv/SiftedGames every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Okay, let's move on to the next big game in today's Nintendo Direct. And it is an old Kirby game reimagined for Nintendo Switch. Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. Mm-hmm. It originally launched for the Wii, and it's coming to the Switch on February 24th of 2023.
I will say the villain in this name hits different these days.
Which one? What is the name?
Magalore.
Oh, yeah. That's funny. Here's a quick synopsis from Nintendo about the game.
Or maybe it's not the villain. Maybe that's who you team up with. I can't remember.
Mag-O-Lore. Yeah. One day, a mysterious spaceship crash lands on planet Popstar. To help the mysterious Magalore, Kirby and his friends set off on a captivating quest. It's captivating, Matt. When inhaling certain enemies, Kirby will gain access to a wide range of copy abilities. Thank you for that, Nintendo.
Which is where this started, I think.
Yeah.
This is one of the first. That's one of the first things I remember him doing that.
Really? No, I don't think so. I think there's 2D games that have copy abilities.
I thought this was a 2D game originally.
This is from the Wii.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's remaking a Wii game.
I thought it was like a remake of one of the older ones.
With the new Mecha copy ability making its debut as well. The game supports multiplayer for up to 4 players. On the same system by sharing Joy-Con controllers. I don't know how much fun that is. Plus, everyone can play as Kirby at the same time while using their favorite copy abilities. There's also a collection of sub-games to play, including returning ones like Samurai Kirby and new ones like Magalore's Tome Trackers. Are we ready for another Kirby game at this point? I really feel like that poor guy is just getting hoard out. Like, I don't know. It feels like there's just too many Kirby games at this point.
Well, technically, it's not another one. It's just an old one.
Right. But there's work being done on this and it's being released.
What else did they do?
I feel like the latest Kirby game didn't sell especially well as it is, and it was different. It was a 3D platformer instead of its typical 2D exploits. But it just feels like that game just came and went with a whimper. Like, it feels like nothing really resonated with people with that game, which I'm surprised because it was really good. I really liked it, but maybe people want their Kirby in 2D. I don't know, but this one's coming, but again, it's not coming until next year. Next up, Octopath Traveler 2. We finally got another trailer for this. This is a game that's in cooperation with Square Enix, and it has, as we've talked about before, the HD 2D art style,
which I normally really like, but I don't know how I feel about that giant lizard.
Yeah,
it doesn't look too good.
Yeah, it's a tricky art style to use because you're right. Sometimes it looks amazing, and sometimes it looks completely ass. And like the first Octopath Traveler, I thought they did a great job with it throughout the entire game. So I have high hopes that this will be the same.
I mean, mostly it does seem to be the same, but you'll
that
see
one
the
shot.
hunter, the one shot of that giant lizard. I was like, oh, I don't like how that looks.
Yeah.
This one, like, I just don't think that works.
Yeah, it's like out of focus, and you're right, it doesn't work.
It's too big.
Yeah.
Like, you could make it work. Like, you gotta buff that up a little bit.
Yeah.
But the main thing that I'm happy about with this is that it specifically called out that the character stories intertwine, which was my primary complaint about the first one, was that the stories were completely separate and nobody had anything to. You never felt like the characters got to know each other or work together or anything. And so now they're intertwining the stories, and that's my main request for this. So cool, I'm in.
Yeah.
It's all I needed.
Yep.
And the music on this is still great.
Yeah, I never finished the first one, but I did play it a lot.
Yeah, I played a lot of it. I hit a point where I was just sort of done with it.
Yeah, I felt like it hit a law of diminishing returns eventually.
And like, especially because like there were some stories I was interested in and other stories I wasn't. And when I was done with the ones I was interested in, I had no real interest in going back to do the ones I wasn't.
Because you knew that they weren't going to intertwine with the others.
No, there was never going to be any of the characters I enjoyed were never going to like be involved and like kind of pull me through it. So I was like, I just don't want to spend that kind of time with those characters.
I hear you.
This is going to hopefully change that.
Yep.
Or maybe they'll have 8 stories I care about and it won't matter. But like the intertwining is the key here. Making those stories feel like these characters meet each other and become part of each other's stories is kind of the main thing you need to make this happen. I mean, it should have been part of the original game. Mm-hmm. I understand that they kind of had to, I'm sure that was in the original design docs, but there's realities of making a game like that work mechanically that you had to get through.
It's not easy.
And so now that they've done that, they can kind of maybe take it to the next level in this one, and I'm hoping that's what this will be. It certainly looks like that's what they're doing.
Yep. And then just a couple smaller announcements. And again, there was tons more. We're not going to get to all of them. There was literally over like 30 announcements in today's, but a lot of it, Matt, was just third-party stuff that's finally coming to Switch. For example, It Takes Two. Mm-hmm. Game of the Year caliber game finally is coming to Switch. I'm guessing there are going to be some sacrifices in the visuals there because it does not look like that is a cloud game.
No, definitely not.
And that game looked pretty good at points. It wasn't pushing the boundaries.
I do like that it is free online play, though.
Yeah. You need that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Otherwise, no one's going to buy it. They also announced some new Nintendo 64 games coming to Nintendo Switch.
Hope you like Mario Party.
Yeah, a bunch of Mario Party, Pokemon Stadium, Pilot Wing 64, Excite Bike 64, underrated game, 1080 Snowboarding, finally, and then GoldenEye 007. Finally, all the rumors about GoldenEye were put to rest today. Not only is it coming to Switch, it's also coming to Game Pass. Like, GoldenEye is alive again.
Well, the remake is, yeah.
Yeah.
But the Xbox one does not have online play.
Is that true?
That's what I read.
Interesting.
Whereas the N64 one on Switch does have online.
Really?
That's what the trailer here said.
Wow.
So Classic has online, and the reimagined one on Rare Replay does not seem to have online.
Weird. So that's bizarre. Huh. Okay. But that's a pretty good slew of N64 games, and they're very quickly going to hit the law of diminishing returns with that stuff as well. They've already kind of skimmed off the top at this point of the N64 catalog. It's going to start going deep at this point, which isn't bad because there are some pretty good games deep in the catalog on that platform as well. So, but most of the big stuff at this point for N64 have kind of already been released for the service on Switch. And again, you have to be a subscriber to Nintendo Switch Online before you can access those games. Just as a reminder, Mario Kart 8 Wave 3 tracks were shown off.
Yep.
Have you played? You don't play Mario Kart 8.
I've never played Mario Kart 8.
I played the first wave of tracks just to go back for nostalgia purposes, but I've not gone back since then. But Wave 3 is coming, so you'll get more classic tracks for Mario Kart 8. And we mentioned It Takes Two is coming to Switch from Hazelight, finally. They showed a new Bayonetta 3 trailer. We're not going to show that because it was... Actually, I think it did introduce like a new protagonist, or maybe 2 new protagonists.
Well, 2 helpers.
Yeah.
They're returning ones, Luca and Jean, and then the new girl with the pixie cut.
Yeah. Yep. That was really the focus of the new trailer for Bayonetta. That's coming next month, so that's coming up really quickly, and it's still coming next month. They didn't delay it, which is great news. Nintendo Switch Sports Golf is finally launching. They had talked about it when Nintendo Sports launched, and now it's coming in the fall. It'll come with 21 courses, 21 holes, and for 8 players. And it's coming this fall. Fatal Frame, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse, is coming to the West for the very first time on Switch. It's never been released in the United States, and that's coming in early 2023. And then today, one of the very best shoot-'em-ups in the history of shmups was released for Switch with Radiant Silver Gun, a legendary shmup from back in the day. Do you have fond memories of Radiant Silvergun, Matt?
I still have the Saturn version.
Yeah. And that's
good.
a pretty big deal. And that came out today. That's available now, which is a pretty big deal. The Big Smoke 82 says, apparently the Switch's N64 emulator allows easy 4-player online. Yeah.
I imagine that will be in play for Mario Party as well.
Yeah. And Andy T. Monahan says, also, if you own Rare Replay digitally, you get GoldenEye for free, which is nice.
Yeah.
They got to figure out something.
It's part of Rare Replay on the Xbox. So.
Yeah. Yep. And then Digital Reflux says that there's a 7-minute new video for Bayonetta 3 on YouTube today. So apparently they released an even bigger video that we didn't show you. And that's it. I mean, it's not it. There was just dozens of other announcements. Anything that I missed that you would want to bring up?
I mean, you clearly missed, what was that stupid name?
What, the Square Enix RPG?
Square Enix, yeah.
I can't remember. But yes, it did have a really
Various
stupid
Day
title.
Life, was that it?
What was it called?
Various Day Life.
Various Day Life, yeah.
Which they might have finally beaten Infinite Undiscovery for dumbest title of a Square Enix game.
Yeah.
Various Day Life, which apparently seems, it looks like it might be by the Bravely Default team. It looks like the same art style, or at least the same character designer maybe, but it looks like you're doing odd jobs for people who live on the docks and then occasionally fighting monsters. Wahoo. Also, just so many farming games. There was
like 3 or 4
remake of Harvest It's a Wonderful Life. There's a new Rune Factory, or maybe it was a remake of a Rune Factory.
Rune Factory 3.
Is it new or is it a remake?
I think it is new to
I thought they were up to Rune Factory 4 at this point. I don't know.
I've never played any of them. I don't know.
Harvestella, which is, maybe would have been the dumbest name in the show if it wasn't for Various Day Life. It's also Square. That comes out in November. At least it comes out this year. A lot of stuff like that. It's the new Theatrhythm game, which is like the Final Fantasy 30th anniversary thing.
That is one I probably should have
like
included.
500 music tracks in it or something. Like, if you're into that, that's
lots of
deal.
Japanese games were in the direct today.
Yeah, I was stunned by how many like indistinguishable anime action RPG. Like, there's another Atelier game. There was.
Yeah, I was scrubbing through it, like looking for footage to clip out for our B-roll, and it was just like one anime frame after another. Scrubbing through is just anime.
The beginning of the Atelier trailer, I'm just like, you could put a gun to my head and say, if you don't guess what this is in 3 guesses, you're going to die. I would not make it out of that. I would not make it out of that saw trap alive. That was.
But overall, a pretty good Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
They had big stuff. They had small stuff. They had Japanese stuff. They had third-party stuff that they're playing catch-up on. Overall, there's a pretty good release calendar for Switch here. Over
a lot of it's stuff that's not going to be on anything else.
Yeah, over the next 9 or 10 months, Switch looks pretty good as far as like the software that's coming for it.
Looks okay.
And no, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, no Metroid Prime 4. They didn't show that at all, which just leads me to believe that...
I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah.
I was maybe hoping for the Metroid Prime remake they keep talking about.
Because those were rumors were flying this week.
Yeah.
That we are going to see the Metroid Prime remake, remaster, whatever it is.
And Switch versions of the Zelda remake.
Yeah, of Wind Waker, I believe.
Yeah, Wind Waker and or Twilight Princess.
And
which
we
I'd
got
be down with. I'd be happy for that.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see that because...
But none of it showed up.
No.
So we didn't talk about it. But overall, man, I'd give that Direct a B+, A-.
Yeah, it's a solid B.
Pretty good. Yep, pretty good stuff. And if it were Nintendo's E3 press conference, I probably would have been mostly satisfied with it. Probably would have hoped for a couple other big first-party exclusives and would have hoped to have seen a little bit more of Pikmin, probably. Pikmin 4. After the long wait for that. And that is one of those story games.
They got a release date for Crisis Core.
Oh, yeah.
The thing.
And that's coming to everything, which is why I didn't include it, because we talked about that before on GameFace as well. So overall, pretty good Direct from Nintendo, but we ended up covering probably a third of it.
Oh, and Vincent says the new game from the Everybody's Golf developers, aka Hot Shots Golf, Shadow Drop today, and was only in the Japanese.
A golf game?
Yeah, only in the Switch.
The Japanese version.
Japanese Direct.
Oh,
but it Shadow Dropped everywhere.
So there's a new
game from the Everybody's Golf developers.
Is that Clap Hands? Is that the studio?
Yeah, it sounds right. Yeah,
it's the weirdest.
I love Hot Shots Golf. So
Me too.
I would definitely give that a chance.
Why would you release that without any?
I don't know. That's. I mean, you know what? The last Everybody's Golf kind of did that too.
Yeah.
I picked that up for like $3 in a sale. I'm like, when did that come out? 3 years ago? What? No one told me. Like, I used to keep up with that all the time.
Me too. I used to love it.
I love
I've spent a lot of time playing Hot Shots Golf in my life.
played a lot of that, and I played a lot of Super Swing Golf on the Wii, which was Panya.
Yep.
On the PC, but like I like those like kind of arcade cutesy golf games. Like,
Me too.
With like the arcade cutesy golf games that have like deceptively like
deep
accurate
mechanics.
like physics and golf mechanics.
Yeah,
Like
I mean that's Hot Shots.
Yeah.
It's like it looks cute or whatever, and it looks like an arcade. And then you start playing it, and you start to realize that there's a lot.
This is Lynx disguised as a cute game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So anyway, there you go. That's the latest Nintendo Direct.
That was always my complaint with Tiger Woods golf. Is it's like, why is this not as good at golf as
Hot these Shots? Other ones?
Like,
yeah.
As the cute games.
Yeah, I remember the Tiger Woods game for N64 was one of the worst games I ever played. It was so bad. Okay, let's move on. Like I said, we got a big show today. Next up, we're going to talk about a big event that happened over the weekend, which was Ubisoft Forward 2022, which also, for all intents and purposes, was Ubisoft's E3 press conference as well.
With all the disappointment that comes with that.
Were you disappointed by this overall?
I thought most of this was bleh.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll start going through it. The biggest thing, obviously, is that they laid down the blueprint for the future of the Assassin's Creed franchise. Everyone was kind of wondering. We knew we weren't getting a new Assassin's Creed game this year. We wondered what was coming next year. We talked about a bunch of rumors that were flying around, I think like 3 episodes ago on GameFace. And as it turns out, almost all of the rumors were true. And there were some bonus games that were not rumored that we did not know really anything about beforehand.
One.
Yeah.
The Jade one was not.
Hexy, right?
I knew about that.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was floating out there.
Hexy and Red leaked a few days before.
Well,
I think it was after our episode.
Red has been rumored for years.
Yeah.
It's that game that we kept thinking was coming next, and it never would.
Red is allegedly having some trouble.
Oh, really?
Because the guy who's leading it is one of the guys accused of a lot of horrible behavior, and a bunch of people don't want to work on the project.
Oh.
And you'd think, I mean, I don't know, I know people who worked over there and like did not like that guy and such, but like, it's weird to me that if you're actually having trouble completing your multi-million-dollar project that is going to be a key part of your revenue for a quarter coming up, and it's like the problem is like the people don't want to work with this one guy. Why are you
get rid of him?
That guy?
Get rid of him.
At what point does it not become worth to protect these people?
I know.
You know, like it's really very weird.
Because they've also lost so much talent. In the last 2 years already.
For God's sake, the Exodus people from Ubisoft named their new company Haven.
Yeah. What does that tell you?
Come
exactly. On. Yep. One of the things we did find out, though, Assassin's Creed Infinity is not a game at all. It's
a platform.
It's just the platform. It's a hub that ties everything together, kind of like a portal.
And it's not coming for a long time.
Is that true?
Because in the thing, they said in the coming years.
Really?
We will implement Infinity. So like they're near the end of the little presentation they do about Infinity, when they cut some of this stuff, they say in the coming years.
Well, I guess technically you have to have the games out first that are going to link into it.
Yeah, but like...
So Red, which we're seeing right now, is one of them.
And that's all you'll see for a long time.
And that's all you see. That's all they should have read.
This and Hexus seem very far out.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, obviously Mirage is coming early next year.
Yeah.
Which we also saw nothing for.
We'll talk about that
but
in a second,
but it's like... I got nothing out of any of this.
Really?
Like, it's nothing. It's little...
See, I didn't know about
teasers.
Hexy at all. I definitely didn't know that it was set...
I don't care if I knew about it already. I mean, I knew that this Salem thing existed and all that. But
I didn't know that at all.
I don't care if I knew about it. I'm just saying we didn't see any gameplay. We didn't see any details. We don't know anything about these, and these could be years away. I don't care about that.
Red is under development by UB Montreal. Is that correct?
Yes, it's in Quebec. Yeah,
and then Hexy is under development by the classic Assassin's Creed team, correct?
In Toronto?
Yeah, I believe so.
Maybe, yeah.
I think that's how it was.
I don't know about who's doing that. And then Mirage, who's doing Mirage?
Oh Lord, I don't even know. Delfino says Red has been worked on since 2020, allegedly. CNote 51 says this could have been a tweet.
Yeah,
I guess I could agree with that.
But even Mirage, like obviously it's CG and we learn about the story and the characters, and it's really cool that I can't remember her name ever. That voice actor, the actress who's
they even did like a little developer doc with her.
Like,
she's in The Boys.
Instant you hear her voice, you're like, oh, that's that.
Yeah.
But like. doesn't tell me anything. Like, because obviously they're like, oh, it's a smaller game. It's only going to be $50, even though we're saying it's going to be $70 price point for our big games from now on. It's going back to the
it goes back to the old style.
But we didn't see any of that. We don't know anything about it. We didn't see how they're doing that. We didn't hear anything about. I mean, except what you can kind of infer from some of the stuff in the CG here. But like, we don't know anything about the fucking game. They didn't tell me anything. Like, I'm irritated by that.
I mean, we know the lead character, obviously.
Yeah, but I don't know anything about what I'm going to
Valhalla.
play. I don't know anything about what if they're going back to basics and kind of reinventing. It's not going to be like an action RPG. Like, so the last three, they didn't fucking tell me anything.
They did release some in-engine screenshots that
I just don't.
That kind of tip its hand.
This is not what I'm interested in. If you're going back to basics and changing the formula up, I'm interested in that. I'm excited about that. I want to see what you're doing, and they didn't. If it's coming out early next year or whenever next year sometime, like, you should be ready to do that, but apparently not. I mean, I found that very annoying after so many years of nothing, of just constant Valhalla crap. At least they confirmed that Valhalla's finally going to stop.
Well, I would say this. I would say that's a failure of Ubisoft first, and then I would say it's a failure of the press second, because the information that Ubisoft sent me does share a lot of the stuff that you're wondering, like, what is up.
Right, but I want to see it.
No, I get it. So that was a mistake by Ubisoft first. And then it's the press's fault for not looking at the materials that Ubisoft sent and disseminating that information out there. I mean, Mirage is a stealth-driven action-adventure. And they released 4 screenshots, and, like, you can just tell by the 4 shots that they selected to release that it's old-school Assassin's Creed style. Like, there's one screenshot where he's perched up, looking down on an enemy, getting ready to dive down and assassinate him. There's another shot where he's jumping off of an object, and he's got his blade out, and he's coming down on somebody.
Right, but I don't care about that. I want to see, how does the progress work? How are you planning the assassinations? Do you even need to plan the assassinations? Is there events that happen you can take advantage of, which they kind of got back to a little bit in some of the DLC for Valhalla? And OCD Master 1 points out that this started as Valhalla DLC, so it's probably the Valhalla team working on it, which makes sense.
Probably.
The France DLC in particular in Valhalla did actually send you on actual assassinations where you had to go around, talk to people, figure out how you're going to do it, and then do it, which I liked. I thought that was like, that's more original Assassin's Creed elements.
This is the first trailer. This is how Ubisoft debuts Assassin's Creed. It always does this CG thing first.
It's just been years.
Yeah.
It's just been forever. It's the same kind of disappointment as Gotham Knights to me, where it's just like, you've been gone forever, and this is how you come back. Like, that's not interesting to me. Like, Mirage is interesting to me. Basim is an interesting character. Like, I'm excited to go to Baghdad. I'm excited to go back to the basics on this, but I want to see what you're fucking talking about.
Yeah. I think we'll get it pretty soon. Like, because, as you said, it's coming out pretty soon.
There's an argument to be made that now is not the time to just keep doing things the way Ubisoft has always done them.
Yeah.
Because it ain't working.
Yeah, it's not working anymore.
So, hand it over.
Yeah, and it was interesting, too, how Yves made a point to talk about how Ubi is now protecting itself from being acquired.
Yeah.
After we had all those reports that he was shopping Ubi around, and the family was ready to sell and get out of the business, and his son wasn't interested in taking his place in running the business. And now we hear that he's doing everything.
It sounds a lot like that didn't work, so we're going to stick with this.
It could be. I am excited for Mirage, personally. Like, I thought this trailer did its job. I agree with you. It doesn't give away much as far as how it's going to play, or, the flow of, like,
I just felt the whole Assassin's Creed section was basically devoid of information.
Yeah,
like, it was a very they did a thing with putting everybody in the room, and they got the voice actor for Sean, and it was very corporate and PR-y, but I didn't get any information out of it I couldn't have inferred from a tweet.
It felt like it was made for not our audience.
Yeah,
people who are not informed.
Who the hell else are watching this thing? Like,
I think Ubisoft is a little delusional, though, Matt.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they quite get, like, otaku culture.
Maybe
like,
not. I don't. But it's like, and it's not like I blame them for the leaks or for various people finding out that the
although you could,
I could, but but it's just So I'm not annoyed that I knew about Red and Hexa before they showed the little teaser thing. I'm just annoyed that it's like, you've been gone forever and you didn't tell me anything. Yeah. Like, the closest thing we got to any information about Infinity is that it's gonna, like, incorporate all the games from now on, and it's probably gonna have a standalone version of the multiplayer whenever they decide what that's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what? Like, it's, that right now it just sounds like Ubisoft Connect with a new logo on it. I don't know what. If you're really going to do the thing where like things you do in one game impact how things play out in the other games, like that's cool. Mm-hmm. But like that sounds like it's 10 years away.
That sounds like a nightmare too.
Yeah.
To make work.
That sounds like something. That sounds like a fun bullet point that's never going to really make it into the
disaster waiting to happen. I love this shot right here though. That one shot where he like assassinates a guy who's dying and he just gently pushes him down as the dude like figures out he's like there. I mean, I said, like they are
demonstrating kind of more of the blade in the crowd, and you don't want to take on 6 guys by yourself thing here, so that's good. But like, again, I would like to see the game play
in the gas traps. Like they show some stuff that.
Yeah, but also like we've done this dance before with Ubisoft where they show stuff like this is obviously not a gameplay trailer, but like they showed that in that Breakpoint trailer that tricked you, and in the end when you play it, it's just like every other fucking Ghost Recon game. I know in my heart, I know that when it comes down to this, I'm just gonna do the counterattack 40 times and kill all those guys until they stop coming and they just walk out of the square. Like that is how it worked, unless you make me do the optional objective thing again, which I hate. So there's no way out, really.
Sneaky says, this series doesn't interest me at all anymore, and I have an Assassin's Creed tattoo.
Jesus. that is a lot.
Congratulations on all your success.
Just send that directly to Eves. Like that is maybe one of the things that they need to hear.
Yep. And then Vincent said that it's being developed, Mirage is being developed by Ubisoft Bordeaux.
I don't know.
Which I don't even know what any of that stuff means anymore. They're all just like a big amoeba that just like morphs depending on where they need help. So anyway, before we move on from Assassin's Creed, I do want to talk at least a little bit about these 2 spin-off games. And as
Vincent says, Infinity is going to be where all the modern day stuff is.
Yeah.
You're never going to see modern day stuff out.
Yeah, that's right.
Otherwise,
modern day.
Which feels stupid.
It does.
Like, it's just
feel dumb.
Like, I'm sorry people don't understand that, and that, yes, that the whole modern day plotline got derailed. A, because Patrice left after Brotherhood and Revelations, and B, Ubisoft overcorrected when they heard everybody complaining about how they don't understand the modern day thing and kind of ruined it in 3. Also, their stupid contract for Kristen Bell ran out after 3 games, so she didn't come back for 3.
Right.
Killer.
That's a problem.
And after that, they did that weird stretch where the modern day stuff was like, you work for Ubisoft, but it sucks.
Yeah.
There was like Black Flag and those things where it's like, walk around an office that is suspiciously like Ubisoft, developing games and being abused by your superiors. And I'm like, I'm glad you guys are getting some sort of occupational therapy here, but like, this is not very engaging.
Yeah.
So I can understand why people sort of turn fully against that idea, but it's segregating it off into the Infinity thing is so silly.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. Like, what is that going to be?
What's the payoff for it? Is my question.
Right. Like, where are you going with it?
Like, why?
Like, I'm fine with the modern day stuff if you have somewhere you're going. Like, they were going something with the Desmond stuff, and then they just sort of stopped.
To put it in cordon it off in Infinity, though, makes no sense.
And also, like,
you want people to re-engage with it.
One of the other examples was how, like, we always have the codexes and sort of the encyclopedias of things in the games, and now they're all going to be on Infinity and all going to be coherent and all working together. Like, was this a problem? Was this a big thing? Everybody was
not for me.
I'll tell you this much: if you are going to put the codex entirely on Infinity, you better have Sean do the voice, because the whole reason anybody I think likes that codex is Sean's sarcasm in the write-ups.
Well, to coin one of your most popular phrases, it's a problem in search of a solution.
Right.
So
it's I don't know. It's the Abram asks if Assassin's Creed lore interesting. I think early on it is, and I think I like the whole like ancient civilization that was here before humanity and like all that, and like that's the secret.
The concept
history,
I like. The execution hasn't been great.
I don't think anyone ever sat, especially after especially after the original writers left. I don't think anyone ever sat back down and sort of planned out what the Assassin's conflict was all about and what they wanted and what they were trying to do and all that kind of thing. I just don't. It's a shame.
Yep. Let's talk about these other Assassin's Creed games very quickly. There's Assassin's Creed codenamed Red. It is set in feudal Japan. It is the Assassin's Creed that people have been waiting for and asking for literally like a decade at this point. Even Ubisoft in the press materials that they sent out for it mentioned that, you know, fans have been asking for this for a long time. It's also been rumored for a long time. This is the next mainline Assassin's Creed. Mm-hmm. And then following up from that is a game we just mentioned previously, which is Assassin's Creed Hex or Hexy, however the hell you say it. Hexa.
Yeah.
It is set in Europe, in Germany, during some
16th century witch hunts.
Yeah, which apparently were worse than the Salem witch hunts.
Yeah, well, the Salem witch hunts were not on the scale.
Yeah. I am all about this, by the way. Bringing like witchcraft and the occult into Assassin's Creed, to me, is something that is long overdue. Like, obviously, you know, it definitely has a what's the horror franchise that started the whole found footage thing? Blair Witch.
It's got a Blair Witch element to it.
Yeah. Which I'm also 100% cool with. Like, it's cheap maybe to copy it, but whatever. I knew what it was when I saw it. I was like, oh, this is about witches. I wish Assassin's Creed did more of this type of stuff. Went into new arenas. And then lastly, there's Assassin's Creed codenamed Jade.
For a second, I was terrified that this was the ancient Japan one, and that was a mobile game, and I was not happy for a split second.
And this is a mobile Assassin's Creed. It's coming to iOS and Android, and it is a full-on open-world action RPG for mobile. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they're going to work with this monetarily. I don't know,
but I'm waiting for the PC port.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks pretty good for a mobile game. I got to say that.
Yeah, it looks all right.
But
nope.
How are they going to monetize this, Matt? Is this going to be like watch ads to play?
No, I'm sure it'll be the same as everything. Buy costumes and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
You think they'll be able to make money with that model with this game?
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know.
People love costumes.
I know that selling games at full price on mobile is a huge mistake, so they can't do that. Other people have learned that lesson for them at this point. But
yeah, they're just long gaming this, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I guarantee there gotta be ports of this at some point.
You would think.
I mean, they did the same thing with Liberation.
Yeah.
And stuff. You know, that eventually got full-size PC and console ports, even though it started on PSP. Was it PSP?
Yeah. This is set in ancient China, like 200 BC. So you can
also be ashamed to waste all the effort and research on ancient China on a mobile game. And never bring it to.
Because you're right, they're still going to do all their due diligence.
Yeah.
No matter what platform its games are for.
I'm sure it's just targeted because, like, you know, the mobile market in China is easier to break into, and this is sort of where they're going with that.
Possible, actually. That's actually smart from that perspective. I'll play it, and I rarely play mobile games. It'll be interesting to see how they handle the controls for Assassin's Creed on mobile.
Not tops.
Yeah. I'm not holding my breath that they're going to do a great job with it.
Maybe they have like one of those add-on things or something.
Right.
I don't know.
You know, those like vice grip things that snap on.
Oh boy, do I not care about this. Like, just put it on a real gaming platform or call me later.
Yeah. That is the future of the Assassin's Creed franchise. There's Infinity, which is a platform. There's Mirage, which is the next game, which is a throwback. It's more stealth action adventure focused. Then there's codenamed Red, which is set in feudal Japan. There's Hexy, which is set in 16th century Germany. And then there's Jade, which is set in 200 BC China. And then also they announced that there is the last chapter of DLC for Valhalla is coming this holiday season. So there will be some new Assassin's Creed content for the holiday season.
Yeah, well, that's just a quest line.
But I'm so far behind with the other DLC at this point.
Well, I will say after this, I started focusing on Valhalla again to try and get through it so I can be ready for the final chapter so I can finish that and delete the 160 gigabyte monstrosity off my damn hard drive. Like,
it's crazy.
It's taking up a lot of space.
It's really bizarre how random game sizes have become. It's
Valhalla's gigantic.
Especially on PlayStation, where some people seem to have figured out how to use that Kraken compression, and then some studios have not.
Yeah, Valhalla, I don't think it's an unreasonable size for how much is there.
The content, yeah.
But, like, it's just...
That's on PS5.
That's what happens when you leave a game like that alone for 3 years and just keep expanding it.
Yeah.
It's Call of Duty size now.
It gets big, yep. At least Call of Duty lets you install now the parts that you want.
Yeah.
So you don't have to install the whole like 150.
I mean, you can technically do that on Valhalla too, but I think there might be an issue with the save trying to load something that doesn't have the DLC installed.
It could get funky. Yep. So anyway, that's the future of Assassin's Creed. On to other things that Ubisoft mentioned in its forward. It showed a boss fight for Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. With every new piece of media for this game, I get more excited for it, Matt. That is coming also in October very soon. So now at this point, it's all gravy. Everything they're showing at this game is just a hype generator to get people excited. They've pretty much exposed everything as far as the gameplay loop and how that works at this point. Really, the last thing to show is like how do boss fights work, and they do that in this video. Matt, are you excited for this game? How much did you like the first one? I can't remember.
It's all right. I mean, this looks more interesting because it has, it's a little more free form.
Yeah, it's not so rigid. It's not quite as turn-based.
But like, I also feel like if there's a game of this sort of vague, this sort of, it's not XCOM, but if there's a game of this nature that I'm looking forward to this year, it's Midnight Suns.
Yeah, which
not this.
Shockingly, now is coming this year.
Yeah, now it's going to be in December.
Yep, that's part of another.
I think that was
segment.
I think that was them realizing that they
cannot
put that out in Q1. It'll get buried in Q1.
And it could do very well if they get it out in Q4.
Yeah.
And then you're maybe right. They may be like, you know what? A couple bugs.
You know what? Let's just squash some bugs on day one and just not get destroyed by every other game in the world.
Yeah. The other thing I wonder too about Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope is it's not going to be quite as copacetic for handheld play. Now that it's not as turn-based as it was before. I don't know if that'll affect it in any way, but just an observation.
They don't seem to take that into account too much.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look like Zelda's going to be catering to that much.
But generally, turn-based games are perfect for handhelds because you can just pause it whenever you want, and you're no worse for the wear.
This seems to be a very loose definition of turn-based.
Yes.
There's a lot happening on each turn.
There are turns, but it's more open to interpretation. It feels more like an action game while you're in the turn.
It feels like Valkyrie Chronicles.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Except like there's platforming involved.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. But anyway, that is coming
very combo driven.
Yeah, but this is coming in October, and no surprise, it is a Switch exclusive. We'll be covering it here on GameFace, I'm sure. Next up,
oh boy, DLC.
Yeah, there's tons of it. Yeah,
three DLC packs, including Rayman.
Yeah, which is cool.
Interesting.
It's free too, all of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's great. That a lot of publishers don't do that anymore. Next up, The Division Heartland, which is a free-to-play cooperative shooter set in the Division universe, which just means it's post-apocalyptic. That's really all the Division universe.
Post-pandemic, technically.
But you're right, post-pandemic. Does that mean endemic?
Maybe. They don't really seem to get into that much, do
No.
they? Like everyone, I think everyone in you're playing, all your Rainbow Six people are basically already vaccinated.
Yep. Probably so. Do you have any interest in this at all?
No.
I do love The Division. It's one of my favorite games as a service.
I liked The Division but I played it too much and burned out.
The first one you played a lot.
Yeah, I burned out on that game.
Yep. And this one is really nothing. It has the Division name, but it's not per se a Division game. It plays, again, it's a cooperative shooter that's free to play. So it's not all about clearing out the dark zone, as it were, in the prior games. But I'm going to give this a try. It's free to play. Why not? But yeah, it hasn't really set the world on fire. It doesn't seem to be generating a ton of hype at this point. Ubisoft has not had...
I forgot this was in the presentation. Yeah. You brought it up.
Ubisoft has not had a great track record with its free-to-play games so far. It doesn't seem to want to give up. It keeps working on them.
It's more interesting than the roller derby one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, or Hyperscape. It's free-to-play battle royale shooter. I'm more interested in this than either of those games. But yeah, Ubisoft so far has not had a lot of luck working in the free-to-play space, but maybe this is where they'll finally figure it out. And then finally, we got another look at Skull and Bones, the game we all thought was canceled, and then we found out it wasn't canceled because Ubisoft needed something to release this holiday season. We found out that not only is this game $70, but all Ubisoft's games going forward are $70.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that?
Fine.
It's really the first, other than Take-Two, it's the first third party to really jump on the $70 bandwagon.
Yeah, although Mirage is apparently $50.
Yeah.
Because it's smaller.
Right.
But I mean, Steph Sterling was complaining about that price point too, although mainly in the context of Last of Us Part 1.
Mm-hmm.
But like, we haven't had a price hike on video game prices since 2005.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous that these things
really
cost as little as they do.
I hate to say it, and I know it's not going to make me popular with the people who watch GameFace, but it should have happened a long time ago.
Yeah, like
let's just be honest, man. Like,
budgets have only gone up, and the fact that it stayed at 60 for 17 years.
Yeah, I mean, nothing has done
amazing.
that. I mean, just think about how much inflation has gone up in just the last like 18 months because of COVID.
Like, if I go to a movie with two people and get food, I'm spending almost the same amount of money as I am for a new game.
Yep. Yeah. I hate to say it, but it's time, people. Like, it just is. Like, it's tough to take when you're used to spending that $60 or whatever.
An extra $10, you know, you buy enough games, that's another game you don't get to buy.
It is.
I get it.
Yeah.
But like, it's
but if you want the industry to survive and thrive, and you don't want every game to be a game as a service,
nature of the beast. And also, we're in LA. We have a skewed perspective on some of that. Movies cost $17 to $20 per ticket here.
Right.
Like, you know, that's
like my wife and I, we got to see a movie here. It's $60.
Yeah.
By the time I buy 2 tickets and I get a drink and some popcorn,
and,
there you go.
Hot dog, like you're
a hot dog or one box of like Milk Duds or whatever. There it is.
There's 2 hours gone.
Yeah, so...
And hopefully you play a $70 game more than 2 hours.
You would hope.
I admit I'm a little guilty of that at times, but you know, mostly because I don't like them.
And look, we're not being anti-consumer here. It's just the truth of the matter.
Yeah, it's the nature of the beast.
I mean, the reason that we're getting all of these games as a service is because the cost of producing
because they've been too afraid to raise the price of the main game. Like that's why that rose as such a big. That's why the microtransactions that everybody hates so much are the things that have been keeping games at $60.
It's true, yeah. Because ultimately, with those microtransactions, they end up making
that's where they get the difference plus that, and so
and
now
then some, usually.
You don't want that. You reject that. Now you're paying $10 more for the games.
Yeah,
it's one or the other.
Yep, it sucks, but it's just.
But I'd say a $70 price tag at Best Buy or Walmart is less predatory than loot boxes in the game, right?
Now I will say this: I am more willing to pay $70 for a new game versus like a remake or a remaster. I guess to Steph's point, I'm not as angry about it as she is, but I can understand the point that is being made there. But you know, Ubisoft is only slapping a $70 price tag on its new games. It's at least so far. Well, it is a slippery slope because once you do start charging that $70, suddenly you're like, well, we can probably charge that for everything if we want to now, once people get used to it. So we'll see how it goes. But right now, Ubisoft, I think, is saying the right things as far as raising its price. And I also would argue that this is probably, now that a big third party like Ubisoft has come out and announced it's doing this across the board, my guess is almost all the other third-party guys are going to start doing the same thing. So don't be surprised.
Yeah, with 2K and Ubi doing this, there's no reason not for everyone to do it.
Yep, so. EA, Activision, all of them. So I would imagine that you're going to start seeing $70 games across the board going forward. And again, like, you know, Sneaky brings up a good price. We're still paying less than the rest of the world in the U.S. Like, games in Canada have been that expensive for a long time. Games in Europe have been that expensive for a long time. We're just now starting to feel the pinch that everyone else has felt for a while.
And I still remember buying Phantasy Star 4 for $99.99.
There were N64 cartridges
works out
that
to
were
$150 today. Games were very expensive. Like getting an NES game was like that was for Christmas. Like that was it. And you better pick wisely. There's a reason all those video game magazines were so popular, because you needed to find a way to be informed.
It was worth spending $5 a month to save yourself $60, $70.
Renting stuff at Blockbuster all the time because you didn't know. Like it was, you know, you were stuck with these things, or you could beat them in 5 minutes, and there was your
there's all your money.
There was your $59.99 in 1989 money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that was pretty much it for the Ubisoft Forward. So you were not impressed by it generally?
Not particularly, no.
Yeah.
I still don't really understand Skull and Bones. Like,
I mean, it really is just Black Flag without the
on foot stuff, which makes me. I mean, I like the ship combat in that, but it also feels like, I don't know, like, what am I going to do in that game?
I do wonder, because it's like you always had a reprieve from one or the other in the Assassin's Creed games. It's like, I'm tired of the on foot stuff. Now I can hit the high seas. Oh, now I'm sick of this stuff. I can go back on land. Now you have no choice. And they're selling that game for $70 too, which is a little eyebrow raising.
Especially for something that was originally free to play multiplayer. I don't know. Like, it's going to be interesting to see what that turns out to be. I mean, look, if you're just
I would not recommend somebody goes out and pre-orders that game right now.
No, but I mean, if you're sailing around, blowing stuff up, and you got a home base you're upgrading, and you walk around, like, that could probably keep me entertained for a while. But at the same time, it's hard to gauge how multiplayer, because it's like PV, PVE, kind of PVE, PVE, whatever they said
It's complicated.
And it's just like you can turn off the PvP and just do PVE, but you also can have PVE with the PvP, have a PVE, PvP. And so it's like, I don't know what the game is. There a story? It seems to be a story. It seems to be some kind of story.
Well, the story is you're trying to become
I worry there's going to be like a
the
division thing where it's just like, here's the premise, go do the starting mission. Okay, there you go. There's the world. And I'm just like, that doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
Like, I want a little more.
I have a feeling that's probably how it's going to be.
Suspicion.
We'll see.
Would go that way. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd give this forward probably a C.
Yeah, I'm like a C-.
I wasn't as disappointed by the Assassin's Creed stuff. I agree with you that they could have shown more and it would have been a lot more exciting. But I think Ubi does tend to shade its presentations towards the casual guy.
They slow
the laser
roll
tag
in a way that just isn't.
The dance numbers.
It's not useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. The best thing about the Assassin's Creed thing, I think, was the 15th anniversary montage
that
thing,
was
which
really
showed
good.
all the cosplayers.
Well, they put out a documentary about
all the characters.
Great.
Yeah, it was good. You know what's interesting to me? This is a side note, but it's interesting to me is like the cosplay Assassin's Creed cosplay community is not more dedicated to original assassins, like making your own assassin.
Oh, right.
As opposed to dressing up like the existing ones.
Yeah.
I always figured that would be like you pick like the time period of history or the culture you're interested in, and you design an assassin outfit for that, and that's your costume.
Yeah.
But it tends to be more dressing as the existing characters, which I thought was surprising.
Really, even for someone like us who's played all the games, can be hard to tell the difference between
every once in a while. It's just like, is that Edward Kenway or is it
exactly?
Is it?
I do that too.
Yeah, like there's that period that 1700s stretch where you're like, you could be anybody.
Any of them, yeah. Yep.
Unless you're Hatham, I'm not gonna really.
Right. Yep. So anyway, there you go. That's the blueprint for Assassin's Creed for probably the next 3 or 4 years. Really. That's quite a run. So I do feel good knowing what's coming. Of all the projects that they showed, the Hexa or whatever is the one I'm most intrigued by. One, because it is by the OG developers of the franchise. And two, just it's so different from anything that they've done before for the franchise. So I'm probably most excited for that one.
It's not the OG developers. It's
there aren't many of those
what remains of the team that maybe knew the people who made the original game.
There's probably a few people left.
I don't know who they'd be.
Yeah,
like that was a long
junior
time
people
ago.
when they first started on the franchise.
The guy who got Jade Raymond her coffee is probably
now,
like a lead designer now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were around when people were coming up with stuff.
Yeah, it's like 35-year-olds like, I remember
that's
16 year ago.
That is pretty freaky to think about. Yeah. That like the 37-year-old on that team now could have worked with Jade when they were like 21.
Yeah.
Where's the time gone? So anyway, that is Ubisoft Forward for 2022. Basically, it's E3 2022.
Can we declare the Prince of Persia remake dead at this point?
Can we? We need like some kind of a thing that we do on the show where we just like put a rubber stamp down or
tie a tag on a toe or something.
DOA or toe tag or something like that.
I don't think. I mean, I do. Beyond Good and Evil is being worked on.
It's right. It's in there. But somewhere. I also feel like it's right on the fringe there.
Well, I think it was killed to some degree, but then I think they went back like Skull and Bones. Were like, okay, we just need to revive these. Like
we need stuff to release.
We need stuff that can be done in less than a normal dev cycle.
Yeah.
But Prince of Persia, I think that's gone.
I think it is,
especially since I think it's the new. One of the new paid costume thing for along with the last Valhalla thing is a Prince of Persia themed thing, or maybe that was Mirage. There was a DLC.
There's something related to
with Prince of Persia themed stuff. I can't remember what it was.
Maybe all we get going forward.
Yeah.
I mean, the franchise is dead. It was replaced by Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. It's been that way for a while.
I would have played that Sands of Time remake. I would have been.
Oh yeah, me too. It's a great game. Still a great game. Still innovative after all this time.
Yeah, hell, you could just remaster it.
Yeah.
And call it a day, and I would still play. I'd still pay $20 for that.
Me too. Yep, absolutely. Okay, let's move on.
Maybe not the sequels.
Yeah, we hinted a minute ago about $70 games and one $70 game that is rankling Steph a little bit. And that game is The Last of Us Part 1, a remake of The Last of Us for PlayStation 5 and PC. as of right now, it's only available for PS5. The PC version's coming at a later date that they still haven't announced, which I feel is strange. But PS5 version is what I've been playing. You've been playing it as well. How far have you got in the game? I think that's important to talk about at the beginning.
I can pass the Bill stuff. I haven't been focusing too much on it because it is just the same game.
Yeah,
it's just, you know, as long as you get to see what everything looks like now, that's the big change. And there's some little AI tweaks that are there.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah,
the work that they did on the AI.
It's definitely different. I do think it's an improvement. You just come down to the whole $70 price tag again. Is better. It's the best version of the game. Absolutely. Yes. If you have never played The Last of Us 1, this is how you should play it.
Yep, absolutely. Even though it is $70.
Like the big pluses are the tweaks to the AI, both ally and enemy, that makes it better. You know, it makes a lot of it better, or at least less ridiculous. Like you don't have Ellie and Bill running in front of the zombies all the time anymore.
It still happens.
It still happens a little bit, but it's less. Like it's
not as obnoxious.
In the original and the remaster, there are moments where like they're just like I've seen Bill like literally run into a clicker and just like kind of.
They just
track around him and like, spin around him like a blind.
Or human enemies too. I've seen them just run right in front of them, but it's nowhere near as bad
as
the original version. The original version of the game that literally ruined the game.
No, you could slap the Benny Hill theme on some of those. It was ridiculous.
They did improve it. Yeah. It's not perfect, but it's better.
And some of the human enemies like take cover better. Like Mark too.
Yeah,
they take cover better. They're smarter. They're less likely to just run at you, which also makes it a little less frustrating because one of the problems in the original was like. If more than 2 humans are running at you, you're probably going to get hurt or killed because they are very hard to hit. Like, so I think that it was improvement. That's the first thing. The visuals are the other thing. The visuals are a complete
drastic.
Clearly the ground up remake is in play there for that more than anything else. The environments are amazing. The facial, I mean, just the prologue. You know, everyone's seen the prologue however many times. I've played this game like 4 times.
Yeah.
The prologue like gets me all over again because the facial acting is so different and so
way better.
So they're capturing what was done in that facial capture session in a way that the previous versions just did not. And the thing with stuff with his daughter is incredible. He and Tommy like look visibly younger.
They do.
Now. Like it's very the jump for 20 years later when you suddenly
now you see it.
You're like, oh my god, like that's 120 years.
Like, we also see the jump from the beginning of this game to The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah.
You really see the age jump there.
There's a lot going on there, and so that's definitely the presentation and the storytelling and all that is definitely improved here. And the last thing is, of course, all the accessibility options that were never in the originals that are just sort of standard Naughty Dog, fare now. So like. That's cool. Sterling did point out that like it feels maybe to some people who have not been able to play these games because of accessibility options, it might feel a little bit like they've locked those accessibility options behind a $70 paywall.
Yeah.
Which is a fair point.
Yeah.
I do feel though like if you couldn't play the previous games because of accessibility option problems, you probably have never bought the game before.
Yeah.
So here you go.
Yeah.
And if the $70 price tag is too high, just wait.
Yeah.
Like there's no rush on this game,
There really
there's no multiplayer to go away or shut down. There's no servers to shut down. This thing will be $30-$20 in a couple years, and you can pick that up whenever you want, and that'll be great. Like it's great. It's great. Is it $70 worth if you already have it twice?
No. It's not.
I mean, I bought it because I wanted the Firefly
with my own
edition.
money.
I bought the Firefly edition for $100 because I wanted the collector's thing.
Yeah.
And luckily, I was not one of the people who got it shipped in an envelope and had it stepped on by UPS people.
Oh Lord!
It's a $100 collector's edition. Sony, put it in a box. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's a little weird.
Mine was in a box and padded very nicely, but some people had theirs show up basically destroyed.
Wow.
And Sony basically said we'll replace all the damaged ones with new ones. But you know what would make that not happen? Packaging them properly in the first place. Like I don't understand some of these companies, and Sony's certainly not the only one that does it. I don't understand these companies that have these premium limited edition collector's editions of things and do not pack them as such.
Yeah, I had forgotten the bulk of the beginning of this game. So when I first started playing it, I enjoyed it a lot because for whatever reason, the first like 4 or 5 hours of this game, I had just like blocked out of my memory.
Well, it's a slow burn. You forget about how long you stay with Tess and like how that all kind of works out, and the little glimpses you get of how sort of life works in Boston and their smuggling operation and all that stuff.
Yep.
I also like how they changed Tess's. Tess looks a little more age appropriate for Joel now.
Yeah.
She looks more like she's in her 40s.
Right. Yeah.
As opposed to like Joel fishing off the teenager pier. Like, you know, like there's an element of that. This is like, okay, because Joel's like got to be pushing 50 in this game.
Well, hey, after watching the new Game of Thrones show, I don't think anything will ever offend me.
True.
Because there's like 13-year-olds having sex in the new Game of Thrones. It's
I mean, welcome to medieval times. I guess. Or certain states in the Union.
It's true.
Don't look up what Alabama's age of consent is, folks.
What they're pushing for,
if you want to have a good day.
Exactly. But so the first like 5 hours of this game, like it felt like I was kind of playing it all again.
Yeah, there's an element. Also,
and
there's an element of that.
There was a moment where I started remembering everything.
Also, there's an element of that with like the people I like that the people she talks to now look like real people.
Yeah,
they're not. You know, that's one of Naughty Dog's strengths in the modern day, especially Uncharted 4 and Last of Us 2 is. You can't tell who the main characters are by looking at them most of the time. Like, everybody looks like their own person with some kind of life to them, and like some, you know, like because they're looking for who are they looking for in this? That guy, I think the guy who screws them over. Like
in this whole part,
this whole you're looking for the guy who
Bob, isn't that his name?
No, not Bob. Is it? Is it Bob?
I think so.
I thought he was a better performer. His performance was better in this one just because they got more of expressions out of him, and it felt like grosser that Tess like guns him down in cold blood.
Right.
It kind of, not that like I dislike Tess because of it, but it felt like it got across how horrible the world is.
Yeah.
It got across like, oh, this is just daily life for these people. It's you know, it's less of a surprise maybe when you find out later in the game that Joel knows about how hunters, you know, people who are hunting humans work because he used to be one.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it drives home kind of the idea, you know, just through performance and portrayal, even though none of the dialogue or any of the scenes are changed, it feels a little more visceral. And also it's using the you know, the violence and the gore physics and stuff of the second game.
Yep.
And like, you know, it's
it's stunning. I mean, visually it's stunning.
And I noticed
just look at that shot.
You know, you just kill one guy. You know, I shot a guy in the head, and as you know, during this sequence, and as I'm walking by, you just see all the blood like pooling out of his head as I walk past, like kind of out on the ground and flowing down like along the flagstones of the ground of the cement he's on, and I'm just like, man, that's so. I mean, it's gross, but it's so well done.
I noticed Joel. So a couple days ago, I had just let the game sit. I was talking to my wife or whatever, and I looked up, and his arm was bleeding, and the blood was coming out through in pulses, like soiling the shirt and running down his arm. And I just stood there and just looked at it for like 90 seconds, watching his arm bleeding with his heartbeat. Like, visually, it's amazing. Although I will say this, at the same time, it's a little disheartening because I do feel like, how are you playing this, Matt? Are you playing it in fidelity mode, or are you playing it in performance mode?
Performance.
So I'm playing it in fidelity mode, and all this B-roll you're seeing is in fidelity mode, and it's stunning. It's jaw-dropping. The frame rate buckles all the time. If I walk from inside to outside, it gets jittery, like every single time.
I mean, that's fidelity.
Which makes me realize, though, that this is kind of the limit of what we're going to get on PS5. Like, if Naughty Dog can't push more out of it...
This is the limit of what you're going to get out of this engine.
You think so?
Unreal 5 is already doing better than this.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I hope so. Because I was disappointed. I'm like, it looks great, but if this is all Naughty Dog's going to get out of it...
This is what you're going to get out of this engine in this version, in this form. Because they're obviously not going to, like, make a whole... You know, this was kind of a cheap project. It was just it was a interim project to keep this team sort of with something to do until the next big thing came along.
I hope you're right.
So I don't think this is the limit by at all in any respect. I think you're just looking at the limit of what their tech that they had to kind of work with without any more jumps is going to do. In the same way that, like, you know, you could have said that about Uncharted 4, but then Last of Us 2 came out. You know, like they've always got more up their sleeve.
I hope that's true.
I'm playing on performance mode, and it's rock solid 60. You know, and it doesn't look that different. Yeah, I spent some time. I can't remember anyone's name for some reason. The head of the Fireflies. When you meet,
black girl?
Yeah, when you meet her and she's leading you, I spent some time just staring at her hood on her hoodie. Like, her hoodie the hood on her hoodie is just swaying back and forth as she walks, like perfectly. It's just the details on
There's some crazy stuff in this, to be sure.
Just the way the backpacks move and compress, and it's like because I remember in the old game, like on the PS3, when like it was just the straps were kind of part of the thing, and it's sort of like, and now the straps move with their body, and it's, I mean, the detail on that, and it's little things. It doesn't affect gameplay. It doesn't make the game any better, you know, to play or anything. But it's just those little things that make it a believable world and believable people, and makes it hard, you know, because I also do like that killing people in this game still retains that feeling of like that they're real people, and like it's a bad thing to be doing.
Well, they say things when you're taking them down,
but they do it, I think, better than one of the things that does bug me about too is how kind of over the top some of the stuff is with like everybody saying each other's name all the time. Like, oh my God, they killed Dave. Kind of thing. It's just like, okay, I know everybody's a person. I get it. But you're gonna pay for what you did to Laura. It's just like, okay, you know, like, okay, ease up.
But I played this the first 5 hours. I forgot a lot of it, and then the more I started remembering it, the less I wanted to play it. Because it literally
for me, it hasn't been long enough.
A moment by moment.
For me, it hasn't been long enough since I played the remaster to want to play through this again fully.
I don't think I'm going to finish playing,
especially because like this is, I mean, look, Last of Us 1 I liked, but I didn't love it. And then I liked the remaster and then I played 2. I was trying to replay 1, the remaster, to prepare for 2, and I just didn't care. I was like that. And then I played 2.
This is almost like 90% a stealth game.
Yeah, and then that's another reason I'm not a super fan.
Agreed.
Then I played through 2, and I'm like, man, I want more of this, but I don't want to replay 2 because I don't want to go through that again. Right away. Not because I didn't like it, but because it's a lot. So I went back to my game of this, which was about, I think I left off around the time he meets Ellie. And kept playing that to kind of compare it, and I just ended up finishing the whole thing.
Got you.
So I just played through the remaster 2 years ago, and it's still a little. It feels like review.
Yeah, I can see that totally. And I had forgotten that it is pretty much like 90% a stealth game. Like the shooting is awkward and it's unwieldy and like it's weird. It takes a while to get the hang of how the aim's working and the sway and everything.
You can mess with, like, you can run up and hit people with a brick and smack them. Like, you can do stuff, but like 2 just does it so much better.
There's a lot of trial and error in this, where if you get caught, it's basically just instant game over. And I had forgotten that about this game, that it's a stealth game. Like there you can see, look, he's just running around in front of that guy.
And I do appreciate that they made the gathering items thing a little less hilarious. Like he more grabs the actual items that are on the table as opposed to the original where he just sort of moves his arms back and forth and everything disappears. It was always funny to me that this game strove for such realism and detail, and then the animation for Joel picking stuff up was just like
he's like,
it was
DJing.
like the most like ridiculous. It was like he was spinning some platters while picking up scrap. Robert, there's Robert.
And like I'd forgotten that, like, you know, the upgrade system is really pointless. Like I don't really care if I upgrade most of the guns because it's always like the stuff I don't want to upgrade.
And it's like things, it's so incremental it doesn't really matter.
It's like the reload speed or whatever.
I don't know why it annoys me that I have to watch him do the whole mod.
Oh, right, when they're doing
he's like, I'm gonna shave the chamber down. I'm gonna polish the. I'm like, just fucking, just make
snap it together.
Fill the bar in a little bit and let me move on. Like, come on, I'm glad you worked this hard on the animation, but let me go.
I guess in general, I would say, and I've played a good bit of this. Like I went way past the part where you like you actually not reunite, where you first meet Ellie. I've played 10 hours of this, maybe a little more probably, and not really interested in playing a lot more, but. What I have realized playing through this is that it's not as good as I remembered it being, the actual game itself.
2 is better.
Way better.
As a game.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Still not bad.
Which is
it's held up.
I mean, look, good. Like it should be.
Yeah.
You know?
But visually, this game is still a stunner.
Yeah, and I would say that, you know, it's still good, and it's, you know, it's absolutely worth playing this before you play 2.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Here we go. Like, pick that stuff up like a real person, Joel. Well done. Good work. I like that. I'm very happy with that.
Yeah. And I've had fun with it. And if I hadn't played it before, I probably would be loving it.
Oh, yeah. Like, to experience it for the first time like this would be amazing.
Yeah.
Like, that would be great.
So, look, if you have not played The Last of Us Part 1, or just The Last of Us, as it's being called up until like a month ago, This is undoubtedly where you should start.
Oh, for sure.
And I think you will love it if you haven't played it. But just remember, it's a stealth game.
Yeah.
And if you don't like stealth games, you're probably not going to like it no matter how pretty it is.
Yeah, if you're into the story, it'll carry you through, even if you're not a huge stealth person, because I'm not.
Yeah.
But like, otherwise, you better
But
you better be ready.
Bricks and bottles to distract guys and get them where you want them to go.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'm using bricks and bottles to hit people in the head.
Yeah, I use that. I do that too.
I mean, I've gotten way more aggressive in this game because of how 2 trained me to play.
Right.
And this game doesn't super support that, but it supports it enough. That I got through. Like, I wanted to see Bill's town and all the traps and that sequence, because that's one of my favorite parts of the game. So I just wanted to see that and how it looked in this, and it's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
Would you say people should spend $70 on it?
I mean, if you're a super diehard Last of Us fan, sure. Like, you probably already have it.
Yeah.
But if you're just sort of like, this thing's not gonna be $70 forever.
I don't think it'll be $70 all that long.
And there's no rush on this to me. I mean, like, this game's not gonna stop being sold. It's not a limited edition. There's no pre-order stuff that really matters.
Yep.
There's no multiplayer mode that's gonna have the server shut down. There's no online element that's gonna go away. Like, just wait and pick it up one day if you're still interested by the time it's whatever you consider affordable, because one day this thing's going to be on PlayStation Plus, or it's going to be $10 in a sale.
Yeah,
like, it's all going to
and this is the final version, and that's the lower third. That's what it's hinting at. This is the end of the line for the first.
This is going to be the
game.
Definitive version of the. You
can buy this and not worry that they're going to redo it again in another 5 years.
Like, you might get like a update for PlayStation 6 one day, but I don't think they're going to charge you money for that.
Yeah.
Maybe they might. I don't know. It's Sony.
Yes, I mean,
you might be $10 for that.
I'll be honest. I'm surprised that they're charging $70 for this.
I kind of understand because like, it is such a big game. Like,
I mean, they can get it.
They can get it, but also like I understand what they're doing in the sense that like, it is still a boutique major, one of their big flagship games, and they don't want to be seen kind of giving something of this quality away for cheaper, and then have the question of like, well, how come this other game is so much more when you charge only this much, $40 or whatever, for this best version of The Last of Us? And it's like, yeah, I mean, I get it. I understand what Sony's doing there. I think it's a little weird that people keep blaming Naughty Dog for that. I don't think Naughty Dog doesn't set the prices for these things. Like, that's Sony. Like, you want to talk with Sony about that.
Sneaky also brings up that the remastered version of this game is free on PlayStation Plus.
Yeah. Which I think proves to me that, like, they know what's going on there. It's like, hey, if you just want this, like, go ahead and play it.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead and try it. Like, or if you want like this super high end, the 4K version, Ultra HD, you're gonna have to pay extra for that Blu-ray, and here we are. That's all. It's absolutely a luxury item out of a luxury item. That you only need if you're a super hyper fan. Otherwise, I would say wait for the price to drop to something you're comfortable with. But it is the definitive version of the game. It is, as someone who's played that game 3 times, I noticed the difference in the performances and the quality of the facial animation. Absolutely. Like, watching these scenes is different now. And really feels more like what the performances these actors were turning in the motion capture. It's very noticeable to me. So yeah, I do say if you like this game at all or have never played it, you absolutely should play this.
But they have not changed anything.
No,
in
it
this
is
game.
The same game,
exactly the same.
Like,
same mission objective, same areas, same everything.
Story, same
moment by moment,
voice acting,
all
same
the same.
everything.
Yep.
It's just better presented,
and the AI's tweaked a little bit. And it does make a difference. Not as drastic as I would hope, but
I mean, but I even know, even early on when you're fighting those guys going to find Robert, I noticed in that first area. I definitely noticed. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, more. It's not like, oh my god, it's a revolution. It's more like, okay, this is more like 2, where people behaved like people, and not like, oh my god, everybody knows exactly where you are and runs right at you.
Right.
Which I prefer. I think that's better.
Absolutely.
The dumpsters still sort of feel like they don't weigh anything. It's just like, not everything's perfect. There's still a lot of weirdness moving the little board things on the water. And all that.
Which is such a weird thing.
The fact that they do it as often as they do, because there's a certain point where like he and Ellie have been traveling for like a year almost, and I'm like, you never just like stopped and taught her to swim,
right?
Like just you found some place.
Also, there's no way a pallet is going to keep a 120-pound girl above the water.
I don't think she weighs that
weird.
Much, but it's an odd choice.
It is definitely, and they kept it in there. Like again, the game is identical other than the visuals and some AI tweaks.
Yeah. Level design's all the same. Boxes are all in the same place. Items are all in the same place.
What about people who have already played through this? Would you recommend they buy it for $70?
Oh, not. It depends how long it's been since you played the original.
Yeah.
Like again, if I played the original 2 years ago, I think it's not a long enough time to replay something, especially something that's narrative focused.
Yeah.
But like if you haven't played since the original came out, maybe.
I mean, that was me. And again, I was surprised that I did not remember a lot of the first act of the game. A lot of it felt new to me still because it had been. I mean, what's it been now? 9 years?
Yeah. June 2013.
It's also was an eye opener to me of like how much my brain is not retaining of the games that I've played. Because it's only been 9 years, and my brain had already kind of wiped out the opening of this game. And then as it went on, I remembered more and more and more about it, and to the point where it almost became uncomfortable. I was like, okay, I know everything's going to happen now. But
also, like the beginning of this game is outside of the the prologue but when the outbreak happens, is not particularly relevant to 2, so you wouldn't have been thinking about it.
It doesn't connect.
Yeah.
Well,
like everybody remembers the ending because it's...
And by the way, I intentionally cut all of that out of this B-roll for you guys because the opening of the game is very spoilerific.
Yeah. And it's also one of the places where you really notice the graphical difference.
It is.
Like, just the theater marquee and running around the town and the cars and the flame
And I do
effects,
regret I didn't
really
get to show
good.
some of that stuff in the B-roll, but I think I made the right decision because there's heavy spoiler stuff in that.
You want to see that. Even if you already know what happens, I think it's worth seeing it for the first time remade like in front of you when you're actually playing.
But I did it. I've enjoyed it for the most part. The more I've played it, the less I've enjoyed it.
Also, on that front, in the prologue, when at the very beginning where you play as Sarah, look at the mirrors. The mirrors are completely functional. The whole thing. I mean, mirrors in games are very hard to do, and these might be the best mirrors I've ever seen.
It's not even just the mirror. Look at the reflections in the water.
Reflections are great.
Like, it's really insane.
But the mirrors are impressive because you can see your character, and then like as you get closer, you look around. It's that thing where you can see this like through the side of the mirror, like the reflector. You're like, how does that reflect them? It's over there. Like in real life, And I was, and the mirrors were not functional in the old game, the remaster or the original game, and I was just.
There are still new games coming out today.
They didn't have to do that.
Don't have reflections in the mirrors. Saints Row.
Yeah.
Didn't have reflections in the mirrors.
Well, let's not get into it. All the things Saints Row didn't do.
That could be a whole topic all on its own.
Somewhere Nate Druckmann is like, someone has mentioned Saints Row in the same breath as our games, and I'm insulted.
I would only recommend this for $70 for first timers. If you've played this game at all, even if it was 9 years ago, I'd wait for it to drop a little bit. Like, I'd be cool paying $50 for this, probably, having already played it.
Yeah, I mean,
I know it may take 40 to 50 would have been
40 to 50 would have been a more comfortable price, but I think Sony did this because they wanted to establish that our big, important, boutique AAA games are going to be $70.
Yeah, they don't want to cheapen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand why Sony's done it, but I would be, as someone who's
and if your response to that is to not buy it until it gets cheaper, that is completely fair.
Totally get it. Yep, absolutely.
For sure.
Yep. So there you go. That's The Last of Us Part 1. Again, it's available now for PlayStation 5 for $70. It's coming to PC. Still don't have a release date for that version, though. I don't know why it's taken so long. I really thought PC and PS5 were, pretty copacetic working together as far as development's concerned, but maybe not. Maybe it's not as cut and dried as we thought.
I think Sony's always going to want to release the PlayStation version of things a little early, a little first, to make it feel like having the PlayStation is worth a little early access.
Yeah.
But I also would not be surprised if the reason this exists in the first place is largely because they wanted to do a PC version. And as long as they were doing a PC version, they might as well remake the whole thing. And as long as they're remaking the whole thing, they might as well put it on PS5.
Yeah.
I would be not surprised at all if that was sort of the course of decision making there.
Yeah.
Because they're releasing all this stuff on PS5, all original God of War, original Horizon, this is definitely in the wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But you can't really release the remastered version on PC and call it okay, because it's not up to snuff.
Yeah.
Even compared to stuff like God of War. So you gotta do a pretty big overhaul, and as long as you're doing the overhaul, you might as well Do PS5 too.
I'm kind of excited to see what the PC folks do with this game.
Oh God, it's gonna be horrible. Like,
but it's gonna look good as they do it.
It's gonna look good, but I mean, some of the stuff you've seen them do with like Spider-Man,
yeah,
like God knows what they're gonna replace Ellie with. You know,
that part is not. I'm not excited for, but some of the more creative ideas that they might do with this, I would be excited to check out. So, but yeah, we have no date for the PC version yet. You just have to hold on and hang tight, and hopefully by the end of the year, you think probably that'd be my guess. November, December for PC, probably.
I think next year sometime.
Really? Wow. Yeah. Okay. There you go. That's The Last of Us Part 1.
If it was this year, I think we would have heard about it by now.
That's probably true. Yeah, because we're in September. It needs to be announced soon to make it out this year, for sure.
Yeah.
If you make it to the end of September, it's not happening, without a doubt. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about a game that we've actually talked about a couple times in the last couple game faces. And Nintendo, in that way, has done a very smart job of making sure the tail end of the marketing cycle for Splatoon 3 was timed very, very well to make sure that they are always giving us nuggets of information or something playable or whatever to make us keep talking about it. And here we are, the third and final time talking about Splatoon 3 on GameFace. I have been playing the game. Matt, I'm assuming you have not played this.
No.
No?
I am not paying that kind of money for
I
this.
don't blame you.
It's just not in the cards.
So
I already paid $100 for Last of Us for the third time. I'm not paying $60 for Splatoon.
Yeah. Actually, Vincent brings up a good point. There is a state of play today.
Oh, yeah.
That's happening, I think, here at 3 o'clock, so pretty soon, actually.
Although, but the Uncharted thing comes out in October.
Right.
I don't feel like there's really room for Last of Us on PC.
Yeah, that's true.
Q1,
anyway,
though, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's talk about Splatoon 3. I've got review code from Nintendo, so I've been playing the final version. I've been playing all the different modes and options. I did play the Splatfest beta that I talked about last time on GameFace, and so I'm not going to get into the multiplayer too much on this discussion today, because I will say that pretty much everything that I said on the last episode about multiplayer, now that I've played the final version, has held true. I've still not managed to play 3-team Turf War. Somehow, I don't know if it's just not available yet or what, but I've not managed to. But I have been playing this, which is the single-player campaign. And I hinted at this last time I discussed Splatoon 3, that it is like the campaigns in the first two games in that you basically get sent to tackle each level separately. Where you're at right now is a hub, and this is like the beginning hub. Eventually, you get another hub that's like snow-covered, but the concept still works the same. You're basically in this hub, and you have to collect these eggs. And as you collect the eggs, when you play in the levels, when you go back to the hub, you can then use those eggs and this little fish critter sidekick that you have to clear this muck, kind of like Super Mario Sunshine. To clear the muck, that will open up new pathways in the hub that will then lead you to new levels that you can play. And that is sort of the gameplay loop that you follow throughout the campaign. Again, this is like the tutorial area. Eventually you get to this area that's like all snow covered. And once you get there, there are basically 6 different levels that you can play. And then there are multiple stages inside each of those levels. I think I roughly did a count. It seemed like there was around 30 or 40 different stages that you can play. And they're all pretty complex. They're not really like copy and paste, like, oh, I played this one, now I'm playing this other one, and it feels the same. They do a good job of mixing up things, and it is, for the most part, like a glorified way to learn how to play the game and prepare yourself to go online and play multiplayer. There is a story behind the single-player campaign. You're basically looking for, what was the name of it? It's called like a Zap something. All the verbiage in this game is so weird. You can, so once you get to the hub world that's snow, you can kind of choose your way through the campaign. It's not like a rigid order. You can choose how you want to spend those eggs to clear away the ooze however you want. Now, the problem is I had problems figuring out whether the pathways that I was opening up were going to lead me to the next proper mission, or it was going to lead me to a side mission that did not take me forward in the actual campaign. But it does give you some latitude to kind of figure out how you want to play your way through the campaign. But basically, the creature that provides the power to your city has been stolen, and in the campaign, it's your job to rescue it. It's called like the something Zapfish, the Mega Zapfish, or something like that. Oh, it's the Great Zapfish. The fish sidekick is used for more than just clearing away the ooze, though. You actually use them out in the levels as well. You can toss him like a grenade, and he actually will attack enemies for you, and then you can obviously finish them off with whatever weapon you're using. And again, I think the variety is really good, but it just doesn't feel like a coherent campaign. There's not a lot of cinematics that like help the story move forward. There's like one when it starts, it sets everything up. And then for the most part, you just keep going, jumping through the portals, heading into each mission and playing it. And there's not a lot of context that ties all the missions together, unfortunately. And this is your objective on every mission, to get to the end and then save this thing. I still don't even know what the hell that thing is.
Is that a fish?
It's of some kind.
That's that fish.
Yeah. It's not the Zapfish.
It is. It looks like a Zapfish.
Yeah,
maybe it's not the great.
It's not the great Zapfish. Yeah, that's the overall arcing plot of the campaign, is to save the great Zapfish. But every mission you finish, and then you come back to the overworld, and now you've earned more eggs that you can then use to clear more of the ooze away to reach new portions of the overworld. And that's pretty much how the single-player campaign plays out. Again, it does do a pretty good job of preparing you for multiplayer and some of the other options in the game. Here you're seeing me clearing the ooze with the little fish sidekick and the eggs that I collected playing in the last level. And now there's a new pathway open, and you cruise down, and eventually you get to a point where you can play a new level. And sometimes there are multiple ones that you can select from. Like I said earlier, about being able to have some agency over how you tackle the single-player campaign. The missions are pretty short, so I said there's like 40 missions total. It literally, like, if you're good, you can get through most of them in like 5 or 8 minutes or something like that. So if you actually add up all the time it takes to finish it, it's not as much as you think. I say 40 missions, you're like, whoa, that sounds like a lot. You can complete them really quickly. You go through them pretty fast. And then once you get to that other snowbound hub world, then you can start like upgrading as well. You can upgrade both yourself with a very, very simple skill tree, or you can upgrade your fish sidekick. And just a pro tip, upgrade yourself, don't upgrade the fish. It doesn't help all that much. The upgrades that you give your playable character do make a bigger difference, though. And that's pretty much it. There's boss fights. I've only fought 2 bosses so far, and they're pretty good. As far as boss fights in Splatoon go, they're probably the best that I've seen so far. But again, like the first one you fight is a DJ, so it had special, and he's like in a DJ booth, and you fight him, and you need to pull him out of his DJ booth and then like knock him back into it. And the boss fights are pretty extensive. That first one lasted me, I don't know, probably like 10 or 15 minutes. But in typical Nintendo fashion, once you hit it 3 times, you finish it off. But there are boss fights. They don't add a whole lot of context to the actual story, really. Like when I beat the DJ, like you thought the great Zapfish was with him, and he's like, I don't have the great Zapfish. Oh, you have to keep looking. It's that type of stuff. So not really a great story, unfortunately, but it does ultimately help prepare you for the multiplayer, which is what most people play Splatoon for. But I do think that this time people may find that they play the cooperative mode a lot more than they did in the past. And the biggest reason for that is because you can play it all the time. In Splatoon 2, it would only be online at very specific days and times. And if you didn't show up at those days and times, you couldn't play it. Now it's available 24/7, and it's awesome. Like, I wish that it was available more in Splatoon 2. I would have played it more, because I had a blast playing this. And some of the concepts from the campaign do carry over here, because you're also collecting eggs here. And you can see, like, on the top left there, you have a timer, you have 100 seconds, basically, and you have a quota for how many eggs you need to get into the basket before the timer runs out. So you go, there's waves of enemies, and with every, like, third wave, a boss will come. You see, I just took out that boss, and now I have an egg. Now I'm going back to the basket to deposit the egg. And that's pretty much how it plays out. Once you hit your quota, they'll let you keep playing, actually, after you hit your quota, because you do get bonus points if you go over your quota, if you end up depositing more eggs than they ask for. And there are boss fights in this as well. There's like 13 or 14 different bosses in this mode, called Salmon Run. I should have said that earlier. I've had a lot of fun with this, honestly. In fact, I would say this might be the most fun that I've had with Splatoon 3. And a lot of that was because I didn't get to play it as much as I wanted to in Splatoon 2 because of how they had it set up. And now it's just there all the time. And there's tons of people playing it. The matchmaking is like instantaneous. You're playing with 3 other players. I would argue that the cooperative part of it isn't all that extensive. If you die, you turn into like a little egg in a cart that you can slide around. And if you get to one of your teammates, they can revive you and get you back into the game. But otherwise, there's not a lot of like really intense cooperative mechanics that you use in this. That is one thing I would say I was a little bit disappointed in. But overall, I had a lot of fun playing it. And it was a pleasant surprise for me, was playing through the cooperative stuff in this. And then it's the multiplayer. And like I said, my impressions of that haven't really changed all that much from when I talked to you guys about it last time. I mostly spent my time playing Turf War. There are like 3 different modes that are available to play, but Turf War is what you play Splatoon for esports and things like that. It is the gold standard, the measuring stick, so to speak, for Splatoon. So I spent most of my time playing that. Probably the biggest thing was experiencing a lot of the new maps, and I love the new maps. A general rule for me in Splatoon is the more complicated the maps are, the worse they are. The more nooks and crannies there are in this game, the worse the maps work, because you end up getting caught in corners, or people end up pooling in certain corners of the map, and you have these big like throwdowns where you don't even know who killed you because everyone's just like attacking everybody at once. When the maps are more rectangular and straightforward, like this one, like to me, these are the best maps in Splatoon. You have like a front that you're fighting, but you can also flank and try to sneak around the sides. And that is also where I feel like the spawning in this is important. So first of all, spawning is different in this. You blast off and you choose where you want to blast to on the map. But it also has the stuff that was in Splatoon 2 where you can go to the map screen and put the cursor over one of your teammates and then immediately teleport to wherever your teammate is. And that is where it starts to get strategic. Like if you start spawning on your teammates, you eliminate all the time that you're spending traveling to the other end of the map to get the fight on. And it allows you to be more strategic and flank and do things like that instead of just worrying about getting back into the fight. So generally, the maps that I've played so far, the new maps in Splatoon 3, I think have been great. And I do understand some people are like, if they're all rectangular, it gets boring. I don't think the maps are what you should rely on to make a shooter exciting. I feel like the shooting is what should make it exciting. And then strategy involved with the shooting is what should make shooters exciting to play. So I thought the maps in this are really good. Some of the tweaks that they've made, like the 2 new moves that they've given, like I just have found myself basically doing those on accident for the most part. Like I rarely do them on purpose. Like I already felt like the vertical wall scaling was good enough in this, and that's what one of the tweaks are. And then the other tweak in it is like a quick turnaround, like Resident Evil style, just quick spin turn. And I found myself hardly ever using that. The way I play the game, like I go under the ink, and then I play it like a shooter, like I'm strafing. So I don't really need... I would rather have a smooth turn so I can pop up and shoot than to do this abrupt, like, quick turnaround that they've given you with the new control options. So I wouldn't say I'm hooked on Splatoon multiplayer again. I do see myself probably playing it for another week, but if you've been reading reviews for this, they're pretty on. Like, most of the reviews have been accurate. It really is hard to find differences in this unless you have played a lot of Splatoon. If you're just casual and maybe you played like the free beta for Splatoon 2 for a couple days, and then maybe you picked it up again for Splatoon 3, you're going to struggle to find things other than new maps that really feel different. The new maps, the new specials, and I have come around a little bit on the specials now that I've learned how to use them. There's really good tutorials in this too. There's tutorials where you can just go and just practice with the new specials if you want, and that was a great feature and really important addition. So the new moves don't make as big a difference. The new maps, to me, make a big difference. But overall, I think most people are going to be like, I feel like I've already played this game. And that's what most of the reviews are saying, and generally, the reviews are accurate. You will struggle to figure out what's new with this other than the requisite, here's a bunch of new maps, here's maybe some new ink colors that you can use if you're on one team or another or whatever. But for the most part, it is the same game. It's still, I would say, a lot like The Last of Us Part 1. It's the best version of Splatoon yet. So if you have not ever bought Splatoon or played Splatoon, and your interest has been piqued, this is absolutely the one you want to buy. It is the best one. But again, if you're someone like me who's played Splatoon extensively through the first 2 games, there's not a lot of meat on the bone as far as new stuff and new features. It feels like the same game with a couple tweaks here and there. And it does feel like, I hate to say it, it does feel like all this stuff could have been DLC, Matt. It just does. And the DLC for Splatoon 2
The sequel could have been an email.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll say this, like, the DLC for Splatoon 2 is great. And it was almost all free, and, like, they do a great job supporting this franchise post-launch, but they could have just kept adding on to Splatoon 2. The visuals don't look any better, which, again, my law of diminishing returns with Switch games, this is another game that clearly illustrates that they've kind of got all they can get out of it at this point. So the visuals aren't really better. The gameplay is maybe a little better, and the maps are better. So it is the best version of Splatoon yet. But if you played a ton of Splatoon 2, or even really Splatoon 1, I would struggle to tell you to buy this at full price. And as we all know, Nintendo's games do not drop in price all that rapidly. So you're going to be stuck with paying full price for this for quite a while if that's what you're interested in doing. So I would honestly recommend buying Splatoon 2. You could probably find it for dirt cheap now, or at least cheaper. And you're really not missing that much from Splatoon 3, sadly. Particularly if you're a noob and you haven't really played the franchise all that much. So, do you have any questions, Matt? Has anything I've said convinced you to maybe give it a go?
Nope.
And I kind of guessed that, because there are no major revelations in this game, unfortunately.
Nothing new here, really.
Vincent asks, is it worth being the fastest selling game ever in Japan? Is that true? That seems crazy. No, it's not. It's definitely not. That's hard to believe. But, I mean, Japan does love Splatoon. Everyone loves Splatoon. It's like become Nintendo's like 4th biggest franchise or 3rd biggest franchise at this point.
Yeah, like I like the look. I like the characters, and so it sure is not a thing I want to play. I would watch like a Splatoon anime or something.
Or that may be coming. I wouldn't be surprised. And here you're seeing some of the customization stuff. And again, the clothing that you equip in this game matters. It gives you buffs. So I'll actually just pause it here before it goes away. So you can see every piece of clothing, it gives you like an ability. And then there's others that get unlocked. So you can see that shirt right there, that tri-shred tee. It gives you the quick respawn feature, but then those 3 dots beneath it also become unlocked over time. And all I'm looking for, Matt, is whatever will give me the ability to go under the ink without an icon. That, to me, is the biggest buff you can get in this game, is being able to slide under the ink without people seeing you coming. And I have not got that yet. I've not unlocked it. But I will also add that, like, you are at a disadvantage when you start playing this game, because the other people are playing with clothing, because you have like a hat, a shirt, and shoes, and all 3 of those things give you buffs. So when you first start playing, you'll have those things, but you only have one ability instead of all like 4 of them unlocked, and you're playing against people that have the best weapons unlocked, that have the best buffs unlocked. You do feel a little bit at a disadvantage when you jump in as a noob, because I didn't jump into multiplayer on this until like the last couple days. When I first got it, I played through the campaign, and then I played the cooperative salmon run stuff, and then I jumped into multiplayer, and it appeared that I was in the minority there, and everybody else had jumped straight into multiplayer because they had all maxed out all their clothes and unlocked all their abilities in their clothes, and I had not. So I did get roughed up a little bit when I first started playing it, and then after like a day and a half, as I started getting some of my stuff unlocked, I started being able to hang and compete pretty well after a while. And the other thing I would say, Matt, is that the Joy-Cons are still kind of crap. Like, my Joy-Cons still, like, disconnect all the time. Like, they're not as bad as, like, when I first got it, and, like, my right Joy-Con literally wouldn't connect at all, and I had to send it back and get it replaced. But, like, if I rest the Joy-Con... Like, I play this game with split Joy-Cons. Like, a Joy-Con in each hand. That's how I've always played Splatoon. That's how I excel at the game. If I rest the either Joy-Con in my lap while I'm playing, it starts getting shady and loses connection. And all it takes is like a 5-frame disconnection and you're dead in any shooter. And this one is no different. So I don't know what they need to do with the IR, whatever they're using to connect. Is it Bluetooth, do you think, that they're using for the Joy-Con?
So. I don't know.
Whatever it is, it's still not great.
I use the the Pro Controller and it's fine.
Yeah, I've tried to play this with the Pro Controller. I cannot. The way that I fine-tune my aim, like so if you use a Pro Controller with this and you're trying to fine-tune your aim, both sides of the controller have to move because you only have one gyro.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm playing with split Joy-Cons, I only have to adjust the aim with the right Joy-Con. The left, I don't have to do anything with. And so to me, it's a huge advantage to play with split Joy-Cons in this game. And like, I sit, I don't know, 8 feet away from my TV and my Joy-Con are dropping. Like, it's just unforgivable. Like, still, after all this time, and my Joy-Con's been replaced like 3 times, by the way. Like, it's not like I'm using my launch units or the one that I got back when my launch unit didn't work the way it was supposed to. I am now on like my 3rd right Joy-Con and my 2nd left Joy-Con, and they just don't connect great. So that's annoying to me. And I hear you, you're right. Like the Pro Controller, for whatever reason, the connection with that is so much better. I don't know why. I don't get it. Why is the tech in the Pro Controller better than what's in the Joy-Con? I don't know.
Probably less crowded.
Maybe, but I did find it annoying. And then, like, when I took the game back in the back bedroom to capture, and I was sitting 2 feet away from the Switch, I was owning. Like, suddenly, like, I was the top scorer in pretty much every game and blah, blah, blah. So that's just maybe a me thing. I don't know. There's really nothing between me and the TV. My Switch does sit next to my Xbox Series X and my PS5, but they're both turned off. And so I don't think it's getting interference from those. It shouldn't matter. They should just work. So that's more of a complaint for me with Switch in general and not just Splatoon 3. But it really rears its ugly head for me in this because that is how I play Splatoon online. And that's it for Splatoon 3. I don't know if you guys have any questions. A million miles away. Thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Vincent says it sold 3.45 million copies in 3 days. And that's the fastest selling game ever in Japan?
It's a lot of copies.
It is, but still interesting. Andy T. Monahan says they just announced Tekken 8. They already announced that at was that at Evo?
They mentioned it at Evo. Yeah. I don't think they officially.
It wasn't called Tekken 8 at that.
But he's like, yeah, another one. We're doing another one. Shock.
Yeah. Remember they had.
I don't mean to shock you, but they ran the ending of the original Tekken and was just like, here we go.
Yeah. With the we watched that one a few times. That was pretty goofy. But anyway, okay, Tekken 8. I think we kind of knew that. Lynn Jeff 99. I came in late. Does Splatoon have split screen couch play? I guess, are you asking for multiplayer? Or are you asking about the cooperative salmon run mode? Multiplayer, I do not think it does. But I'll be honest with you, I did not dive into the options deep enough to answer that. So that's my mistake. I probably should have dove into the menus a little more. I did not. I'll say this. I looked all through the menus, and there's a city in Splatoon, and you can run around to the various locations on foot if you want to, or you can just hit like the X button and it just brings up a menu that just automatic, and you can just choose from a menu that warps you there. I'll say this, in all those menus, there's nothing about cooperative play in there, but again, I did not search the menus well enough to tell you definitively whether or not there is local couch co-op play. He says, I was wondering about multiplayer. I'm assuming not. I would also guess not. I would also say you probably don't want to play Splatoon multiplayer split screen. You really kind of need to get the whole lay of the land to understand what's going on with the match to play strategically. So I think it might be a bad idea, but again, I can't promise you whether it's included.
There is no split screen in Splatoon 3.
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
You can play couch co-op with 2 different switches next to each other.
So there's like LAN play, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
There is no split screen.
Okay, thank you, Matt. So there you go. I did look through the menus pretty well and did not see anything, so I kind of thought that was it, but I never want to say definitively unless I know, and I did not know that. So thank you. Any questions from you guys? I guess not. I asked Foreman, there's nothing in here. Again, we talked about this like the last 3 episodes, so you guys are probably burnt out on Splatoon at this point. But anyway, there you go. That's Splatoon 3, and it's exclusive to Switch, and it is available right now. It just came out on Friday. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about a game that Matt has been playing this week. A little game called Circus Electrique. It is one of the weirdest turn-based RPGs I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it is a bizarre-looking game, to say the least, man. Is it as bizarre as it looks?
No.
No?
It is... It is surprisingly by
Not.
rote in places, in fact. So this is a game, and this is Zen Studios, the company that does Zen Pinball. This is their
not exactly a pedigree of RPG.
No, not the
Greatness.
usual thing. And in the interest of full disclosure, this game is written by my friend and yours, Chris Baker.
Yep.
Who used to be...
He used to work for Marvel games.
He worked for Marvel Games, like Marvel liaison between Marvel and the game developers.
He was a good friend to have back in the day.
Yeah, he was PR at LucasArts.
He still is a good friend.
He was PR for LucasArts for a long time. Like, really good dude. One of the nicest people in games. Yep. Period. And he wrote this, and he also wrote Operencia, which came out a few years ago. That kind of Ultima Underworld style grid-based kind of dungeon crawler. But yeah, so he did write this, and that's kind of why I gave it a shot, because he was posting about it, and I was like, okay, my friend wrote this, I'll give it a shot. The writing is pretty good. Like, there's a story with full voice acting, and not really animation, but like the kind of motion comic stuff. I do believe it is the first video game I have ever played that has included the word fop doodle.
Clearly, I think I've heard that word before, though.
Clearly, it's real Victorian. Clearly, Chris did some Victorian slang research. There's some zingers in this one, but it is kind of a steampunk, clock punk, Victorian Gothic circus turn-based RPG board game would be sort of how I describe it.
Yes, it's very bizarre.
So you play, you more or less, the main character is Amelia. She's a reporter for some paper in London, and she goes to report on this Circus Electrique in London, which is conveniently run by her uncle, is the ringmaster. And he apparently, there's a history thing there where there was some accident that seems to have killed her mother, and she blames him for it, and he seems to accept responsibility for that. And it blinded her pet lion.
No.
Who just shows up. It's like at one point she's got a lion with her named Leonidas who's blind, and he sits on the sideline of conversations and growls a lot. And he turns on this like Tower of Power thing, which you can actually see in the background there. And when he does, these automaton policemen start running around going kill, 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 and start going crazy and trying to kill people, and you have to fight them off with circus performers. And if you would like more of an explanation as to why that is true, I don't have one for you. So the game becomes it's a balance between fighting these turn-based group battles, which resemble turn-based games of like past, but also remind me a lot of stuff like Darkest Dungeon in the way that's like four lined up and where you are in the four-person lineup matters in terms of where you can attack and what's going to attack you and sort of like all that stuff. So in here you see you can recruit new circus performers from the train that brings new performers if you have the resources for it. And so the gimmick here is that to progress the story and progress things, you have to go out and explore London on this sort of board thing where you can move from space to space, and some of them are like decision spaces, which direction to go. Most of the spaces you can only go one way, so you're making a choice to like cut out another part of the board by going that direction. You can find treasure, you can find fights. So here's the thing. Every day of the game, a day ends after a fight. You get one fight per day, basically. Okay. And every day you have to put on a circus performance as well. So before you go out into London, you have to do this, where you assign different performers in your stable to the slots of the type of show you're going to put on. And you get various recipes, so to speak, for different shows. And they'll get along with different performers better, or they'll fit in different slots in the performance better, and you have to kind of do that because that determines how many stars you get, and then you assign those stars to the audience and money and stuff. It will basically determine like what you get as bonuses from the performance. So you have to set that up, and so while you go out into the here's the London map, where you go out and fight. At the end of that fight, not only will you have to kind of rest for a day, but the circus performance will happen, and you'll get graded on that, and then you'll get the newspaper for the day, which like reports on like what happened in the streets and how the circus performance went and what's happening elsewhere in the city. And you can go through a bunch of spaces on the board as long as you don't get into a fight. But if you the fight places are marked with a boxing glove there. Like, so that's a fight whether you want it to be or not. There's others like the question mark things. You usually have to make a decision, and there's little icons that will tell you like there's a boxing glove there. You'll get in a fight if you choose that icon, that option. If there's other ones that can give you loot or whatever. So as long as you don't get in a fight, you can keep exploring the board, but you're generally railroaded into having a fight at some point, and then the day ends and you have to kind of do it all over again. And so there's obviously there's different classes. So here she's a fire. The girl in back there is a fire eater, so she does fire attacks. Obviously the weightlifter does like kind of tanky
heavy
stuff.
Yeah.
The clown is sort of a versatile. He can do taunting, but he can also do healing. And then the girl with the whip there does electrical stuff, and she's harder to figure out how she works, but she works well if you have weaknesses to electricity stuff. And also she can break statuses, which is and then one of the big elements is there's an affinity meter, which has a specific name.
There's a lot happening on screen at any given time.
It throws a lot at you.
Yeah, man.
Like
Holy
it's
crap.
just throwing system after system after system after system at you. And it even says like, hey, if we overwhelmed you on this, go ahead and look at the it's all in this little tutorial area, and you can go read all the entries again. But there's I think it's affection or devotion is what it's called, and so that's kind of morale. And high devotion will give you bonus. So if you look at the text down there, you'll see a little blue number like +1 and stuff. That's your devotion bonus, and the higher the devotion of the character, the more of a bonus you'll get. And if you can lower the devotion of an enemy to 0, they'll run away.
Oh, okay.
So you can actually end a fight early if you demoralize the enemy enough, which is an interesting mechanic. There's the newspaper that reflects all the things that happen, and there are actual stories to you can read the actual story about what happened if you want. So the combat is interesting in that regard, but it is very much like rock paper scissors, but like that version of rock paper scissors has like 14 things in it, like one of them is like Spock, and it's that kind of thing. A lot of stuff to keep track of, like character interactions to keep track of. You got to keep recruiting people and like figuring out what those different like classes matter for, and whether you should put them in your fighting team or whether you should put them in your performance team, and whether you should swap those once in a while because they do level up but level up slower. And you get different buildings in your parks. Like over there you can see like the sleeping tent. If somebody gets really badly beat up, because the clown actually does a pretty good job of keeping people healed. He has an automatic like morale boost where everybody gets some one character, whoever gets the lowest health, I think gets 7 hit points per round from him, and then he can do actual healing abilities. But like if someone gets really beat up, you can put them in the sleeping tent for a night and they'll get a much bigger recovery. And you get more buildings in the circus that kind of help with that. The weird thing is that like, so the thing that's kind of not engaging me with this is, well, A, I don't really care about circuses.
And who does?
But B, there you can see a series of choices. So I can see the top one has the boxing glove. That'll be a fight. And then the others are like loot. The weird thing here for me is that you are recruiting a team. Yeah, that thing at the bottom with all the locks on it, that'll eventually does unlock. And that's all your performers, basically.
Okay.
Maybe I'm not far enough in the game, but none of those performers have personalities. There are not characters in the story. They are just archetypes you have copies of. They're all different people. They have different names and look different. And some even have different voices and lines, but they are not participants in the narrative. Amelia is so at the end of the fight, she and her lion run out and celebrate with the team.
Right.
And you're supposed to be leading the team, but that team is never part of the story so far, at least so far. Maybe it changes later, I don't know. So it's weirdly disconnected. Like the performing and the fighting are entirely involve people that are not involved in the story.
Weird.
And I find it very hard to care.
Yeah, they're bidding for you. You're bidding for you, basically.
But because they're all custom and they're all different and they're all hired, and you can choose to hire or not hire, like especially once the tutorial ends, you can't really have anyone. It's almost like a Octopath Traveler thing. Like you can't count on any of these characters being there in a player's team, so none of them get to play in the story a little bit. You know,
okay, yeah.
So they're there, and you get to know them as fighters, and as you know, I know like what the various characters can do, and who I need to use for this, and who can delay this, and who uses this ability. But in terms of being characters in the story, they're not. It's not a thing, and I find that weirdly disconnecting.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all.
So it's very aesthetic driven. So if you like kind of a thinky turn-based system, especially if you like Darkest Dungeon but don't want it quite as unforgiving, this will fill that role. It is hard. It does the difficulty does ramp. You got to start thinking about what the enemies can do, and who to take care of first, and who to use status effects on, like because they hit pretty hard. Once the tutorial ends and you stop getting kind of the free defenses and misses, like they can take you apart if you're not if you're not paying attention. And you do have to adjust who you're taking with you and try to decide who you want to have on your team and keep your team pretty balanced, and check the train to make sure that there's not new classes you don't have, because you want to have kind of examples of all of them.
One thing I would say is it all looks the same.
It does. It's
like there's very little like visual variance throughout the game. It is,
but it's like that sort of, if you like the aesthetic, you're gonna love it in that regard. But if it doesn't do anything for you, and I'm not a huge steampunk kind of circus is not really my preferred mode, really.
Can't imagine there's too big of an audience for that, but
probably not. But it's cool that it exists. It's cool that this is a thing. Like I've never seen anything quite like it in the sense of putting that aesthetic together with this type of gameplay.
Yeah.
And it's only $20. The price is right, I would say. But it's
available for everything.
I think just about everything. Yeah. I got it on Xbox. So yeah, I'm not in love with it. I do think Chris did a good job in terms of the writing. Like I get who the characters are right off the bat, and I know who they are, and I remember them, and but like those aren't the characters I'm playing the game.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Which is very weird to me. At the very least, I'm like, how is the lion not getting more involved? I mean, eventually, maybe I don't know.
I don't know who greenlit this.
I haven't gotten very far.
You might want to find a new job. I hate to say it, like you look at it, you're like, who is this appealing to?
I can see how you'd see like if you played the cards right on this, you could kind of pull the BioShock audience.
Yeah, I mean, it has that vibe,
but it's equal parts interesting and off-putting.
Yeah,
by nature of its subject matter.
Yeah,
and that's not its fault. Like Circus Electrique did not make people afraid of clowns.
Yeah.
Poltergeist and it did that.
It sure did.
There is no mention of fears of clowns in psychological or psychiatric literature before the 1980s.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Poltergeist and it did that.
Definitely Poltergeist, man.
Yeah.
It made me afraid of clowns.
That was the 80s created a new phobia.
No, I haven't gotten over it since. I'm not still afraid of clowns.
Yeah. I don't care. I never cared about clowns one way or the other. I just don't understand.
John Wayne Gacy might have created some fear of clowns.
That was,
as well.
I think John Wayne Gacy was in part responsible for the '80s trend of making clowns scary.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think it all started with him.
There was something because there was a wholesome element to clowns before. McDonald's didn't pick a clown because people were afraid of them.
Yeah,
it's because everybody liked them.
Yeah, not anymore.
Not anymore. And look, this game does lean into that a little bit. Like the clowns are creepy, and I think the game knows the clowns are creepy. Like they're kind of playing with that a little bit. But overall, I just was sort of like, okay, cool, but like I don't.
You would not recommend a purchase at $20.
I mean, I don't. Yeah,
a very specific person.
There's a very specific person who sees this and is like, mine. Yes, absolutely, and like that's cool. Or again, I keep coming back to Darkest Dungeon. Darkest Dungeon is the closest comparison I have in terms of the actual turn-based combat. And if you like that sort of brain teaser of how do I get out of this without getting completely ruined, this game will do that for you. With a much more forgiving system than something like Darkest Dungeon. It's not nearly as punishing as that, but it gives you that same flavor. And I like that, but like I don't know, it just wore thin for me very quickly. And moving around the map, the fact that every time you move and get into a fight, you have to then go back and do the damn
It looks like it's
planning
all like
thing again.
Text and menus.
It's all menus and text and stuff like that. And the other thing is like I don't know what this was designed for, but I found it rather small text wise. Like I found reading everybody's. If you look at that B-roll, you'll see like everybody's ability has like 4 or 5 lines. Of what it does.
It's just a lot of stuff.
And after a while, I'm like, what is it doing? You know, it's like, and eventually you get it and you understand. You learn the characters and stuff. But early on, and especially reading like a lot of the description and tooltip stuff, it's just a lot of small text that feels a little too small for a console game.
Okay.
Which you don't run into all that often. Probably be fine on a PC or a tablet. I don't know if it's on tablet. I don't know if it's on mobile.
Yeah.
It would probably work fine on mobile. Production value is good. Gameplay, like it's so stop and go with the board, jumping back to planning the circus and then doing one battle and jumping back to the planning with the circus. And eventually you get to do more. You know, there's more spaces to go to and it's not as battle. But the battles are constant. That's the meat of the game. And you're always going to go back and have to do the circus again. And I really didn't care after a while and sort of gravitated back to...
The Last of Us
and Assassin's Creed and Steel Rising.
Yeah.
So
which we talked about last episode as well.
Yeah. I did play Steel Rising some more. Speaking of automatons.
Did it get any better?
I don't know if it got any better, but the levels past the where the beta ended definitely sprawl out more and interconnect more and are bigger, more Dark Souls-y sort of mazes and things.
So level,
there's
that was one of your big complaints.
And you get, and as I expected, you get like a grappling hook, and you can kind of traverse the stuff differently than you did early on. So like it does open up and give you a little more. There's reasons to go back to other previous levels and go up in the grappling hook and use the thing to break open the doors you couldn't open before.
Right.
So there is some of that, yeah. But it's, you know, all my complaints about how it's just sort of a mediocre combat system with a less than interesting story for the most part. A lot of men talking in rooms, more or less. Although I was impressed at, I don't know if impressed is the right word, but there's a point. One of the characters in the game is black. And, you know, a wealthy black man in, you know, revolutionary France is a little unusual.
Right.
Not ahistorical, but it's But at one point, your character, completely unprompted, you pick the dialogue, but it just says the character's name, and she's like, it's like, what is it like being a black man in France right now? And like, there's a whole anti-racism bit about how he he escaped slavery. He was born. I think his father got him like citizenship in France, and he's wealthy, so he can kind of avoid the weird racist pogrom sort of stuff they do, where they instantly imprison people. Because France didn't go with the whole "you're free if you step on French soil" thing to maintain like kind of international relations with the U.S. That basically, if a slave came to France, you were imprisoned and then let go when your master claimed you. Like,
but he was wealthy enough to avoid it all.
They were checked baggage, basically, right?
Yeah.
And so they addressed that in this little bit. And I'm like, that came out of nowhere, but it's kind of a interesting part of history that you don't hear about, and they sort of tackled it head on.
You learned something
right there, and I was like, "That's cool."
Yeah,
like especially after Greedfall kind of did a whole colonialism thing and never really addressed that.
Right.
It feels like maybe they learned something over at Spiders.
Somebody must have said something.
Yeah, and it made me wonder, like, I wonder what Greedfall 2 is going to be now that they seemed a little more aware of that sort of thing. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
But overall, it's
your impressions still are basically
it's a mediocre Dark Souls game that probably does not have the combat systems to support it. I will say that it has a lot of accessibility options that I wasn't aware of before. There is a mode you can turn on that makes it so you do not lose your souls when you die.
Wow.
They just kind of get you to throw yourself at things over and over again. It actually does make a pretty good argument for why an easy mode would work on a Souls game.
Yeah,
it does not change. You know, you can play without that. And if I hadn't known that was there by reading forums, I would not have ever tried it.
Yeah,
because I wouldn't have known what was there. Yeah. And it did not change anything about the fucking game experience for me. Like it wasn't any easier because there's another easy mode in there somewhere. Like it was fine. Like it didn't change.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, so yeah, I thought that was cool. Like if you're bad at Dark Souls games and think they're too hard, this game lets you turn off the thing that makes Dark Souls games so hard, which is that you lose your money.
Yeah.
Like if you want to play a low stress Dark Souls clone, here you go.
Okay.
So if you're interested in that, like, it doesn't matter if you die, really.
Right.
It's like any video game. You just go back and try it again.
Yeah.
So if you like to do that, If that's your sticking point with Souls games,
unfortunately,
there you go.
The rest of the game isn't as good as
no,
Souls
but it would.
games.
I think it would be. It's a pretty good training wheels kind of thing.
That's a good point. Yep.
Also, it's really pretty. Like, it is very nice looking for the most part, and like it is a visually imaginative thing, especially if you ignore Lies of P. It's not their fault.
This came out first.
Yeah, this came first. The weapons are all really cool looking. You look really cool. All the outfits and armor, all the clothes you can change around. Like I look like a badass all the time with the fans popping out of her arms, and she's got basically like a revolutionary coat on and like a jaunty hat, and it's great. It looks great. It's cool. Again, I would have preferred to play a Greedfall Technomancer style game in this world rather than a Dark Souls game.
Right.
But it sure is nice to look at, and there's some really cool environments, and there's some really neat kind of French architecture tricks, and
they try some new stuff.
It does. It's not boring. It's just I just don't think.
So you like it more than the first time you played it?
I like it more now that I've kind of adjusted to it, and I will say that we're going through because the beta save does not carry over, so I had to play the parts I played
all over again.
But again, I did that about half the time because I knew the weird foibles of the combat, I knew the ins and outs, and I knew the bugs I might run into. There are a couple things that seem to be tweaked. A couple of the frustrating enemies don't do some of the spammy stuff they did as bad anymore, and I was able to get behind them and not get hit by weird hitboxes anymore. So maybe that beta did do some good.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's for.
I will say that I ordered a copy from Amazon, a physical copy from Amazon, and I got the beta code the day it came out, which is the day after the beta ended.
Right.
So thank you, Amazon, for that one. That was very helpful.
Well, I'm glad you slid that in there. Still rising.
Yeah.
A little better than what your first.
A little better. Accessibility options, definitely a plus that I didn't know about before. Yeah, if you want something that shows you what an easy mode could look like in a Dark Souls game, I think that's a pretty good one.
Okay.
So
awesome.
Hey, give it a shot.
All right.
Maybe not for $60 or $70, I guess.
Ooh.
No, it's 60. It's still $60. They're doing $60.
Okay.
The Amazon physical copy was definitely $60. All right. For now. Now that Ubisoft broke the dam open.
Yeah, who knows? Even smaller studios like that may change.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's time to move on. We're going to talk next about a game that neither Matt nor I had the time to play this week, and it's ironic that we're talking about it today because Pikmin 4 was just announced today. It is a Pikmin-influenced platformer called Tinykin, and Vincent has jumped on it and played it for us, and here is his report.
Aegis, my beautiful planet, shining with life, the home planet of humanity, according to what they teach in school. Nowadays, I'm the one teaching.
All right, everyone, I'm here with Vincent Borchardt. He has been playing a game that Matt and I did not have enough time to get around to. The game is called Tinykin, and the name sounds familiar for a good reason. If you're trying to connect the dots and you're like, that sounds kind of like Pikmin, that's for a very good reason, isn't it, Vincent?
Yeah, it's somehow like Pikmin likes to become my niche in my segments. Like I did Pikmin 3 remaster, I did The Wild at Heart, now I'm doing this.
Yeah, this is your third one, actually. And look, if Nintendo isn't willing to give us new Pikmin games, at least some of these other studios are starting to pick up the slack, right?
Yeah, though they're a lot more different than Pikmin than you might realize. They're all trying to take different spins on the basic formula of you control a bunch of minions and have them do stuff.
Yeah, and also there's the Ni no Kuni franchise, which kind of incorporates some of those ideas as well. How does this game tackle the Pikmin influence, though? How does it work?
It's a collectathon platformer, and it's a lot more of that than the Pikmin stuff, actually. You explore a world, you platform around it, and the Pikmin are basically your tools to do some of the tasks in the world.
So they're kind of like you use them in context-sensitive environments? Is that how they work? Or can you just use them whenever you want?
There's 5 different types of Pikmin. The Tinykins, sorry.
What do they call them? They call them Tinykins?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, so with each niche, the purple ones are the closest to normal Pikmin. You throw them at stuff to move them, and they carry your stuff. Then there are the red ones that explode to destroy barriers and light lights and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. The green ones, you make like a ladder for your character to climb up so you can get around the areas. Blue ones carry electrical current to solve puzzles, and yellow ones make ramps for the with the purple things to carry stuff on.
Okay. And then, so this is let's get this straight, first of all. This is a 2D platformer, not a 3D
It's
platformer.
a 3D platformer, but all the characters are 2D.
Interesting. How does that work?
I mean, it's like a Paper Mario or something.
Okay.
It's a 3D environment. It's just that the characters are all 2D, and they look like they're not going purely as paper. It's more just a stylistic choice, but it looks good.
Do they play with the whole idea, like span the camera around to show you that they're actually 2D, or do they just keep them
Other than like a
sideways the
few
whole time?
jokes, not really.
No.
It's all sideways. Like there's one joke about how like I don't have a side. Oh no.
Oh,
That's about all I noticed.
but for the most part, they stay away from
Yeah.
those kind of ideas. Okay. So it's a 3D platformer. So you move into the screen as you're playing the game. Generally in 3D platformers, you usually have a little agency in how you tackle, at least maybe not the overall game, but at least each level. Do you have a lot of freedom in this game to explore around? And if so, do you kind of stumble onto cases where you can use the different Pikmin in ways you didn't expect?
Yeah, the whole point of this is that there are only a handful of like big levels, and your goal is just to explore all around and do various things in them. So there are actually only like 6 levels, and one of those is kind of like part tutorial and part mini level. So like 5 main levels, and like each of them has a main goal that you need to accomplish. But there's a bunch of other stuff around that you can do to just get other things. And
now, when
and
you
you
say
just
main goal, what generally are those?
you're like this scientist on a far off planet full of humans, and then you discover, oh, humans actually weren't born here, and then you find that there's this other planet with a human signal on it. Spoilers, it's Earth.
I think we could have figured that one out.
Yeah. And then you teleport to that area, and you end up in a house that's like been overrun with bugs and stuff.
Okay.
And you're tiny.
Oh, so this is a small person, big world video game.
Yeah.
Where you're just this, that's another theme for you. Remember we tackled Grounded before. The big
that
theme
was
in Grounded.
not for this. That was for Game Pass or Fail.
Yeah.
But still. And
so
then
you're a small person in a big world. You find a house, and what happens at the house?
Yeah, like you're just, when you teleport, you don't go completely smoothly. You just kind of crash down. And then one of the like main bugs finds you and notices that you have a real affinity to the Tinykin. And then the main bug says like this mythical deity Arwind was making this machine that could help you go beyond the house, and he wants you to find all the parts for it.
Oh, okay.
So, and then like in each of the 5 levels, there's a part that you get once you complete like the main thing that the bugs in that area want you to do.
So a little bit like Pikmin, you're kind of reconstructing your spaceship.
Yeah.
With parts that you find throughout the game, with the idea of then collecting all those parts, building your vehicle, and then leaving. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Very much like Pikmin then.
Yeah, though there's only like one part in each level instead of a bunch of them.
Right.
So like in the first level, you're in like the living room of the house, and these shield bugs, they can hear like some really soft music that they're like a sign from the gods. And your goal is to try and to give that to the masses by taking this round circular object, a CD, and taking it to the stereo and fixing the stereo so it'll run.
Okay.
So everyone can hear the music.
Interesting. So they play with that mechanic, you're the small guy in the big world thing, like throughout the entire game.
Yeah, like the best part of this game is just the world and how there's a lot of detail to it. Like you're climbing over pianos, and the bugs have their own world that's built inside of things. Like in the first world, there's a guitar laying on the ground, and like if you go inside the guitar, there's like a little like comedy club or like fancy restaurant, something in there.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Does anyone play the guitar while you're inside it, by any chance?
I mean, when you're walking on the guitar, you can bounce on it and it makes a noise. Strings.
Are there humans in the game? Do you interact with like human beings at all?
I mean, you're a human, and like from your world, there are humans.
Okay.
And to say more would be spoilers.
And to say more would be a spoiler?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. How do you control the Pikmin? Because that has been, I mean, you know, your mileage varies on this generally, person by person, but some people like the way Pikmin controls. Some people do not like the way Pikmin controls. I kind of fall in the middle where I appreciate that it's something that's hard to accomplish, but I still don't feel like Nintendo has nailed it. How do they manage that in this game?
It's very simple. So first you have to find all the Pikmin. So each room has its own like selection of Tinykin.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't carry over from room to room. You find them in like eggs or by breaking the cages with the red Tinykins. Then like when you're just walking around, you don't have to worry about them getting stuck on anything or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you come across something that interacts with them, you like hold the button and then it'll automatically select the right type of Tinykin you need. And then
it does.
Just,
interesting.
Yeah. And then you just throw them, and that's pretty much it.
And do you feel like it works pretty well?
Yeah, it's very simple. You don't need to like guess if something's interactable or not. You just do it, and that's pretty much all.
Now, how is the pathfinding in this? Because that was another problem that Pikmin and other games like it have had in the past. A lot of times, you'd end up with a few stragglers that you're leaving behind, and you'd end up losing Pikmin. Like, you'd end up ending the day in Pikmin, and you get that final count, and they'd be like, oh, a bunch of just died. And you're like, oh my gosh, what do you mean they just died? And you didn't realize that you had left like a handful of Pikmin behind somewhere where they were unable to navigate around a turn or around an object on their own. How does that stuff work here?
So if they're following you, they never get stuck.
Okay.
They just jump around even the stuff that doesn't make any sense. They just follow you wherever you go.
Okay.
Like that's one of the other things is as you're platforming around, you also can float in a soap bubble, which is just not one of the ways you get around, and then you can grind on a soap bar.
Is that like your double jump? You turn into a bubble or something?
Not as much a jump as you just float for a long period of time.
But it lets you reach like platforms that are farther away and gives you a little bit of margin of error with your jumping, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, right? Yeah.
Yeah, though you don't get any extra height from that part. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
go ahead.
If the Pikmin are carrying things, they have a specific path that's shown with arrows on the ground, and you have to clear the obstacles in a specific order, but they don't get lost other than that.
And they're okay carrying the stuff back on their own?
Yeah.
Now, you only carry one object per level, or is there other stuff that they're actually collecting, but you just need the parts to your vehicle?
So, like, you'll have other things. Like, for side quests, you'll need to carry stuff. Like, one of the side quests in the first level is that one of the ants has, like, her child or something stuck inside the piano. So, you gotta find the missing key to the piano, which is being used as a table in the restaurant over on the other side of the level. And then you bring that back to the piano, and then you go inside the piano, and then do a bit of platforming and breaking of some barriers, and then you find the kid, and then they give you a treasure. That's one of the side quests that's not directly related to the main quest.
Okay. What is the bulk of the game? Is it just platforming? Is the Pikmin stuff one of the smaller elements of it? What do you spend most of your time doing?
It's a collectathon platformer. Like, you're just...
So it is mostly platforming.
You're exploring the level. You're collecting the Pikmin from their eggs and stuff. You're finding a bunch of pollen, which are basically like the coins of the level. Mm-hmm. There's like hundreds, like a couple thousand in each level. Like, I think the most was like 1,600 in the first level.
Wow.
And then like you need 1,000 of them to
That's
go to the... Yeah, I mean, you get them in bigger bunches.
I'm guessing you do, but that's still a lot.
Yeah, and then like if you get like 70-80% of the pollen in each level, you bring it to a guy and he'll give you a new soap bubble so you can go farther places.
What happens when you're platforming? What do the Tinykin do? So if you've jumped over like 5 platforms, how do they follow you and stay with you?
They stay there for a while, and eventually they'll come back to you. Like if you start throwing something, they'll come back to you immediately.
So they just teleport to you?
Yeah, as far as I can
so that's
tell.
how they solve the pathfinding issue, is that they just teleport. They don't try to actually navigate the environment like the Pikmin do in the Pikmin games.
Yeah.
It's probably smart, honestly.
Yeah. Especially if you're jumping all around. And I think like they actually can, like, they're shown as like being able to fly a little.
Oh, okay. So they do at least try to hide it with some animation here or there.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like if you throw something at something and it's not what it is, you'll throw it and then they'll fly back to you a little, I guess.
Okay.
Whatever.
Since you are doing a lot of platforming, how are the platforming controls and what all abilities do you have? I'm assuming you have like a butt stomp, a double jump.
Not really.
No?
You can jump, you can float with the soap bubble, You can like grind on a soap bar, which you can also do on various rails and threads and like sides of platforms and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have those green Pikmin letting you climb up like a ladder where have solid ground. You can just climb up.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it.
Wow. So the platforming controls are pretty simple.
Yeah, there are a couple spots like in some of the later side quests where they push it a little, and honestly, that might be one of the harder parts of the game. Like I know one late game part, like you're grinding on a small piece of thread back and forth, and you're trying to throw the red Pikmin to destroy something. That's hard. That's mostly because I don't like using both the like RB to grind and then R trigger to throw at the same time. But
yeah. It can be a little awkward.
Yeah.
Have you been enjoying your time with the game? Are you a fan of Pikmin?
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's a short, breezy experience. I only spent about 6 hours with it, and I did mostly everything. I think there's like one treasure I have left.
But you managed to rebuild your vehicle and get the heck out of Dodge?
Yeah.
So did it take you the full 6 hours to do that?
Yeah, that was pretty much completing it, mostly everything, taking my time.
Okay, that's a pretty good length of time to play.
Yeah.
And what platforms is this for, and how much does it cost?
It's for everything. I want to say it's $25, and it's on Game Pass.
So you can get it, quote unquote, for free on Game Pass if you're a subscriber, and then $25 for everyone else. Would you pay the $25 for it if you didn't have Game Pass?
I would. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
It's just it's short. You got to know what you're getting into. If you don't like collectathon platformer, this won't do anything to change your mind.
Yeah, I mean,
but otherwise,
you have
I like
1,000 of the pollen to collect. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But you know what? A lot of other games, they just have more collectibles with lower numbers. But if you add them all up, they probably hit that number anyway. So it probably isn't all that out of the ordinary as far as how much stuff you're collecting. And I always argue that argument about, it's a collectathon platformer. My argument against that would always be that, yeah, sure, you're collecting stuff, but you're doing things to get to the places where you need to do the collecting. So to me, the collecting part was always just the means to the end. The most important part was what you were doing to get to those areas where you could then collect the things. But that's an argument from 1998, Vincent, that I used to make back in the day when everybody said that all 3D platformers were collectathons. And I was like, no, I do not agree with that.
Yeah, like there's a lot of pollen, though. I just mostly use it as, if there's pollen here, that means I haven't been there yet. Because there are, like, the levels are big. There's only like the 5-6 of them, but they're just big with a lot of stuff to do in them.
Now, are they connected with a hub, like the Banjo games, or do you just teleport to each area?
They're all connected in the same house. Like you can go from one to the next, and then there's like the main area where the main bug's building his spaceship, and you can see all the treasures and stuff. That eventually connects to all of them once you complete the main goal of each level. But like the tutorial level is a hallway, and you got to go from there to get to like 3 different areas, as you might expect from a hallway.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so that's Tinykin. It is available for everything. It costs $25 if you buy it outright, or it is free right now on Game Pass. And Vincent, you recommend it for our viewers and our listeners to purchase, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you very much for playing Tinykin. We appreciate it, Vincent.
You're welcome.
A big thanks to Vincent for playing Tinykin. Certainly one of the more interesting platformers that I've heard about for quite a while, so give it a look. We're going to finish off this episode of GameFace with one last topic, another big event that happened over the last week. It was Disney's D23. For the longest time, these events really were just all about TV and film. But now that Disney is starting finally to get back into video games.
Disney Interactive seems to be back again. Again.
They're starting to participate in this stuff again, which is a good thing because we got some pretty big announcements out of this, not the least of which is we finally got a look at Amy Hennig's upcoming Marvel game. Not only did we get a look at it, we got a trailer for this thing, Matt, which, shocker, I mean, honestly, this trailer is just like all CG.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot
It's
of
not like
here.
there's nothing from the game actually in this trailer, but it is a Captain America and Black Panther game from Amy Hennig, one of the writers and the lead developers on the Uncharted franchise. It is set in Paris during World War II. The slogan for the game is 4 heroes, 2 worlds, 1 war. And it's an original story set in a unique Marvel universe. First of all, are you surprised that they've given Amy Hennig and team the latitude to create its own little universe in Marvel?
No. In fact, that's what Marvel prefers to do.
So they're not that protective of that type of stuff then?
The Marvel philosophy is that everything happened. In the multiverse. There's a universe somewhere where everything happened.
Okay.
So it's just another multiverse. It's just it's another timeline.
All right.
And they prefer to do that. All the games tend to take place in their own thing, just like Spider-Man.
Because then they're off the hook for continuing
you don't
stuff.
have to. You don't have to tie
connect to the
stuff.
films or anything else.
You can draw from the films as much as you want, and I'm sure they will. But yeah, you don't want to be beholden to any other continuity if you don't have to. So this is, I'm sure this is preferred by Amy Hennig as well. So she can just write her own story and not be tied down by anything.
How do you think they came to have Captain America and Black Panther in this game? I think it's just like they're the most popular characters now.
I think they're popular. I think they're an interesting pairing, and I think they have a similar power set, so you can have them both sort of doing the same thing and not worry about, it's not like a Superman Batman thing. They're both basically peak human super soldiers, and I think there's something worth exploring in the idea of Steve Rogers being a white man of his time teaming up with a black man of the time.
Yeah.
Who is...
obviously World War II was fought over the Nazis, so...
Who is T'Challa's grandfather in this.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of the idea, like there was segregated armed forces and kind of mixing in Wakanda in that realm. You want to see how Steve reacts. Now, Steve Rogers being Captain America and a hero is probably going to react just fine. There's a lot of stuff, and the comics and the MCU have introduced the idea of Isaiah Washington, the original Captain America, black man who was experimented on, which has a real history in American history, obviously, with the Tuskegee experiment and such, where they perfected the formula, killed a bunch of the volunteers or subjects, and then used the final formula on Steve, the white guy who was going to be the real face of the Captain America program. So. And presumably the head of state of Wakanda is going to be aware of some of that.
Who are these people here, Matt? Obviously, I know who 2 of them are. Who are the other 2?
One is she's one of the, on the right is, I can't remember her name, but she is one of the major founding members of basically the Wakanda secret special operations team, which becomes the Dora Milaje later on.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy on the left, I can't remember. He's an American soldier.
I was wondering if it's maybe one of the people you were talking about.
I thought he was Isaiah Washington at first, but I think he's got a different name. I saw his name and it's a different name and it's not him.
Okay.
But, yeah. So, and then that's Steve, and I can't remember T'Challa's grandfather's name, but he is 2 Black Panthers before T'Challa.
Now there's the 4 heroes. What do you think are the 2 worlds?
I think that might just be referring to the difference between America and Wakanda. Okay. I think because Wakanda is so isolationist, I think that might just be referring to the fact that these are 2 people from 2 very different cultures, 2 very different worlds.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't
interesting, don't you think?
I don't think there's a multiverse aspect there, but there could be. Who knows?
Right.
I'm not saying there isn't, but that
you mean with like the 2 worlds thing?
Yeah, the 2 worlds thing to me says that these are just 2 very, very, very different men. I think that's what that's going for.
I think that makes sense. We know
who probably want very different things in Paris.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like God knows what Wakanda's doing there.
Mm-hmm.
Probably somebody's stealing vibranium again, or the Red Skull's doing some horrible, because Hydra's involved.
Yeah, I'm sure the Red Skull's involved in.
Must be absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to World War II with Captain America, there's gonna be some Red Skull and the Hydra stuff.
Yeah. Interesting though, but we have no more information about it. My guess is this game doesn't come out till 2024, 2025.
Yeah, I would say that's probably fair.
Because her team is also working on another Marvel game that's a Star Wars game. Well, it's not Marvel.
That's not Marvel, it's Star Wars.
Disney. So they're working on that plus this new Marvel game. It's a lot
Yeah, that's
for
probably
a
pretty
studio
far
that
out.
just formed.
And remember that like we've got other Marvel stuff coming. That Wolverine game is in play. We should probably start hearing about that next year.
Yeah, I was surprised. That is a bit of a spoiler for this topic, but it was not there. Were you surprised that they didn't show Wolverine?
No. That's a long way out.
Okay. So anyway, an auspicious debut,
I think we'll
though.
see that next year.
Anything from Amy, I'm all about.
Oh yeah, anything.
So I'm pretty excited for this. Next up, we
We could do a text adventure and I'll pay $60 for it. I don't care.
Next up, we kind of ruined this earlier in the show, but Marvel's Midnight Suns
Yep.
is now coming out this year. So it was originally scheduled for this year. It was delayed into next year. And now at D23, they announced that, in fact, it is coming this year again.
Yeah, I have to assume this was to get away from the rest of Q1.
And November. It's not coming in December either. Like, they're just barely getting it out. It's coming in November now.
I thought it was December.
I thought it was November, the new date.
I thought it was
I could be
December.
wrong. Somebody in chat fact check us on that one. But holy crap. Have you ever seen... This has never happened before. I don't need to ask you. It's never happened that a game was delayed and then moved back to where it was before. Like, it's just unheard of. It just doesn't happen. I think we're right,
Yeah,
though.
it's December 2nd.
It is December 2nd, so just into December. But I think we are right. I think they saw an opportunity, and they're like, you know what? If it's not 100% clean
close
code,
enough.
like
Yeah.
it's good enough, because the amount of money we'll make putting it out in late November, early December versus in crazy Q1.
It would get buried in
Yeah.
Q1. And you push it too far beyond that. I don't think you can probably delay this out of the fiscal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think barely getting it in before Christmas is probably the right move.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, pleasant surprise from D23 that this game is now coming this year, and we'll have another game to talk about in December, which is awesome. We're going to need it for those last couple episodes of GameFace before we leave for the holidays. So there you go, December 2nd now for Marvel's Midnight Suns. Next up, Disney Illusion Island, which is a 2D cooperative platformer, and I believe it's like 4-player co-op.
Yeah.
For Switch. It's exclusively for Switch. And it stars, obviously, Mickey Mouse and crew. This harkens back a little bit to...
Yeah, it seems to be in the vein of the 16-bit games.
Yeah, it definitely
But using the modern look from the current shorts they do, which if you haven't seen the shorts that use this art style over the last 10 years or so, look that shit up on YouTube because they're crazy. Like,
really?
Disney was... It's like, there's some shorts in this that I don't know how they got to make them.
Really?
Like, there's some stuff in this like, series... This goes back 10 some years or so.
I had no idea. This all looked new to me.
There's jokes in some of these shorts that I'm like, how did that get past Disney?
Wow.
Like, there's some raunchy shit in this. There's some violent stuff. It's a throwback to the old stuff, but there's an episode where there's one where
that almost looks like a Flash comic, like a web comic.
it is a little bit, but there's one of the three of them change brains, like change minds, like because like Donald wants to be famous and Mickey's super famous, and like they all learn that they hate being each other, so they have to like go back. But there's also like body horror involved in it.
Wow.
There's a whole thing where there's a really hot day, so they hide in an ice cream truck, and the ice cream truck loses its parking brake and goes careening through the whole town and almost kills all these people while they're like cooling their asses off on ice in the freezer inside the ice cream truck.
What?
And they're all the reactions they have to cooling off is
eyebrow raising.
Yeah, it's like
I've never even seen this art style before.
Yeah, this is these like online shorts they did for going back about, I think, starting like 2010 or so.
Wow.
And some of them are amazing. Like, they're all on YouTube. Just go look them up.
So this could be like a hidden gem here. Is what
Yeah,
you're
like
saying.
if they keep the same style of like humor in this, like this might shock some people.
Wow.
And how good it is. Like,
that's good to hear. Again,
yeah.
it's Disney Illusion Island, and it is 4-player cooperative platforming, which could be insane.
Mm-hmm.
And it is Switch exclusive. I'm not sure why. I mean, other than the obvious, Switch's audience skews a little younger, but man, they could sell a lot more of this if they put it out for everything. And eventually they probably
I'm
will.
sure it will be on everything eventually.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's a timed exclusive at least for Switch. Next up, Marvel World of Heroes. When was the last time you played Pokemon Go?
I don't know, like a year ago?
Yeah, it's been even longer than that for me. I finally just uninstalled it from my phone. I was like, why do I still have this on my phone? It's also become pretty bloated over time. It's actually a pretty big file. But anyway, Marvel World of Heroes is being developed by Niantic, which is the developer behind Pokemon Go. And it also works very much like Pokemon Go.
They've really just got the one game when it
Yeah.
reskin.
Yep.
They reskin. What was it?
Lord of the Rings, wasn't it? Was that Niantic that did that
No, it was-
Pokemon Go clone?
No, it was the one before that they based it on. Ingress. or
Oh,
whatever it
Ingress.
was.
Yeah, that was the original. Yeah. And then Pokemon Go. And now this.
Lord of the Rings, and then the Pikmin thing, and then they did a Harry Potter one, didn't they?
Yeah, that's what it was. Harry Potter, not Lord of the Rings. That's what I was thinking.
I'm sure they're probably a Lord of the Rings thing.
Well, this one is set in the Marvel universe, and you literally go out in your neighborhood looking for Marvel villains to fight.
Sure.
It says players can create their own unique superhero identity and origin story. I don't know how that works.
The most notable, you just pick from a bunch of options. The most notable thing in that is that one of the characters has an X-Men ability.
Right. That's a big deal. You're right. Players will need to patrol their neighborhoods to foil crimes, complete superhero missions, and thwart interdimensional threats. As players level up, they will unlock equipment and abilities and will team up with Marvel superheroes such as Spider-Man, Wolverine, Captain America, and others to battle iconic supervillains and save the multiverse from cosmic and earthbound threats.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically Pokemon Go, hosed down in Marvel juice, set in the multiverse.
Yep.
Do you think that's kind of interesting, though?
I mean, I don't think I'll mess much with it.
You don't think you
but
will?
No, I don't think. It's just going to be another grindy.
It could
piece of
be,
shit.
but it could be fun going out in your neighborhood and trying to hunt down Marvel villains. No?
No, they're not fun to play.
You're
Like,
right.
that's the
When it
problem.
comes down to it, the combat always sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just very rudimentary.
Like the fun part of Pokemon Go was throwing the Pokeball,
Yeah.
and like there's probably not going to be anything
Or
like
just
that.
being around other people who are doing it.
Yeah,
the
it was
communal part
a
of it.
phenomenon, and that was part of it too. But like, I
Yeah.
enjoyed throwing the Pokeball at stuff.
Yeah.
It passes the time, and it's fun to do in line at Disneyland or whatever. But like this, like I don't know what you're gonna. I mean, what am I gonna
Yeah.
do? Like draw hexes or something? I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
I got plenty of Marvel stuff to play already. It's fun.
Pharaoh Doll says Nanali, Gabriel Jonas, and Azuri are the other characters from.
Okay. Gabriel Jonas. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Gabriel.
Yep. Vincent says, remember, Spider-Man 2 is before Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's a good point. And one definitely won't. They won't be coming out at the same time.
No, Wolverine's a few years away.
Sneaky says, "I'm so over multiverses. I think you're not alone there. It's starting to get old." Erebus asks, being divorced from the MCU was a major ding on Avengers. Do you think this could be a risk for Amy Hennig's game?
No.
Yeah, I don't either.
Being divorced from the MCU wasn't the problem. Being a bad,
Yeah, that wasn't really-
being a bad idea was the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just don't think people. You know, Steve Rogers is the only character in there that we have a pre-existing MCU bias about.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think it really. I mean, as long as Steve Rogers looks like a blonde guy, or some random white dude, like I think it's fine.
Yeah.
The other characters are all basically new to MCU people, so
Yeah.
I don't think Gabriel Jones has been in the MCU, or if he has, I forgot about it. And the others definitely not, outside of maybe the ancestor shots in Black Panther's like Afterlife.
Yeah.
So yeah, mostly you're working with whole cloth there.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone cares what the Red Skull looks like or sounds like. So
No.
he's been played by 2 people in the MCU already. So no, I don't think that's a problem.
Okay. And then a couple smaller games.
I worked out for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a better way to do it. I don't think you want to be trying. Part of the problem with the Avengers game was it was so close to replicating the MCU lineup and the MCU idea, and it seems like they've learned not to do that, because this, that game has almost nothing to do with the MCU premises. Wolverine is going to be its own thing. We're almost certainly not going to have a new Wolverine in the MCU before then, because look, if you're expecting an X-Men movie before 2026, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
They're doing the multiverse saga first, and then they will do the mutant saga, I promise.
Okay.
But I do think we will see Doctor Doom and Black Panther 2. I think Doctor Doom will show up in Wakanda Forever.
That's what I'm talking about.
That is my prediction.
Okay. There's a couple more games. There's Disney Speedstorm, which is a kart racer set in the Mickey universe. Is that a thing? Or just the Disney universe, I
It's
guess.
just like a random Disney Pixar thing.
Tough sell on Switch with all the new DLC coming from Mario Kart 8, but on other platforms.
Apparently, it's free to play, though. I heard
it's free to play.
I thought it was, which means it's probably just monetized to hell and back.
Yeah, which whatever. That stuff doesn't bother me that much. As long as I can compete without having to spend money, I'm cool.
Yeah, my problem has always been with stuff like that. Is like, if you let me just buy the character I want to play, fine. But if you're gonna make me like roulette for it, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, you just, I want to play whoever this is, and you just let me get it, fine.
Yeah.
I'll give you some money for that. But I'm not gonna play your frickin' lottery.
Yeah.
Just to get the one character I want.
I agree. And then finally, there's a visual novel coming based on Tron called Tron Identity, and it's only announced for PC right now. By the way, Disney Speedstorm is coming to everything, and it's supposed to come out before the end of the year, but they still haven't announced a release date. So
this is interesting, just in the sense that I'm always amazed that Tron keeps coming back.
Yeah, because it feels like that's something we care about that most people don't. Yeah.
No, I love Tron, but it's just
Me
like
too. But most people don't.
I mean, there must be people in the Disney Corporation that are our age that also love Tron and keep trying to make it happen.
It's going to work this time.
The only explanation for why this thing keeps coming back is it never does anything of note.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it does keep coming back, and I'm glad they put a new backpack out for it.
Yeah.
This at D23 you could get one of those little those little themed backpacks. Whose names I forget the name of the company.
I don't know.
They're these tiny little backpacks. You see them at Disneyland all the time. These tiny little character-themed backpacks, and they have the faces or whatever. But there's one that's like looks like a Tron. It's all Tron did up, and it's got like a identity disc on the back.
Cool.
Loungefly or something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, Bithel's working on a game, so that gives you at least a little bit of hope.
Yeah. I mean...
But also
Tron 2.0, the game, was a better sequel to Tron than Tron Legacy. So
that's true.
I know everybody gives Tron Legacy the big pass because fucking Daft Punk did the music, but then the music in that movie is really good. But that is it's kind of an okay movie, but it's a really terrible Tron sequel.
Yeah.
The interesting part of Tron is sort of the real world, computer world equivalence.
Yeah.
And by setting it on an isolated server that has not been connected to the real world in 20 years, you are sort of removing that hook.
The important part.
So instead, it's just like, okay, cool. What? Also, we have to go to the part of the server that no one has ever been to, and it's super remote. We can't get there, except that there's a train that goes right to it. Read your script before you produce the movie, guys. Come on.
A lot of people could take that hint.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's D23. Overall, pretty underwhelming. I mean, if that's the lineup of Disney video games that we're getting at this point, like, improvements could be made.
Yeah, well, we're also getting Jedi Fallen, Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
And there's
other Star Wars stuff coming.
There's some new Lego Star Wars, but it sounds like just character packs.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
But better than nothing.
Yeah, baby steps. Like, they're getting their feet wet again, which is nice to see.
Yep.
And they're playing nice with some of the licensed stuff. As I said, there's that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 arcade 1-up machine coming, which nice. There was certainly a point where we thought that Capcom and Marvel would never talk to each other again.
That's true.
And now here we are. They're putting these old games out again. Some of them for the first time on anything other than the Saturn.
Right.
So cool. Disney is sort of reaching the hand out a little bit and acknowledging its history of these licenses, which is nice, because otherwise it would certainly be within Disney's power to throw all the old Star Wars and Marvel games into a big box and throw them in the vault and we never see them again.
It's true.
They could EA it, no question, but they're not, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's D23. I'm guessing next year it'll be even better.
Yeah.
Because they really are just kind of getting started again on this stuff. So hopefully next year it'll be better, and hopefully we'll get to see one of Amy's games actually in a legit trailer.
Oh, and that presentation was actually done by people we know.
That's true.
So
yeah, crazy.
Let some G4 alumni bringing that to you.
That's right. So. It's pretty awesome. Okay, it's time for some of your favorite parts of the show. It's time for Name That Game, where I show you 5 screenshots for a video game.
D23 is every 2 years.
Oh, it's every 2 years.
Won't be next year.
So it'll be D25.
No, it's always D23.
It's always D23 no matter the year. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. What's the 23 stand for?
It's a Disney reference.
Oh.
I don't remember what it is.
Okay.
Someone in the chat will say.
So definitely in 2 years, we'll get to see one of Amy's games. Hopefully before then. Keep our fingers crossed.
Oh, 1923. Because that was when the company was founded.
Oh, makes sense. It's time for Name That Game.
Yes, AJ the Legend Watson, I did get that pre-order.
What pre-order?
For the MVC2 arcade machine.
Oh, that you were talking about on last... Was it last episode?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that did actually go through, and it should be here early October.
Oh, snap.
We'll have to figure out a way to shoot that.
Yeah. Roll it in here.
I'm not rolling a whole arcade machine upstairs.
Yeah, we'll have to install that elevator in your house, Matt. Okay, it's time for Name That Game.
It's not Body Harvest.
Emperor Dread. There it is. You already got it in there. It's time for Name That Game, and it's not Body Harvest. Someday it will be, though, and he will not be here, I guarantee, whenever we finally do Body Harvest.
I like that he actually redeemed the message highlight for that. That was good.
Yep. And how Name That Game works is I show you guys 5 screenshots from a video game. You just try to guess what the game is. You're trying to guess the name of the game before Matt. You guys win all ties. If you've won it before, do not play. Don't even type guesses in the chat. Just sit back and chill. Don't be a part of it. We also go into slow mode when we do Name That Game. So you only get one guess every 60 seconds. You can't just spam game names and hope that you guess it right. Make sure that you make your guesses count because you only get one every 60 seconds. And I think that's it. Mm-hmm. Every episode, I think I get the description for Name That Game down an extra like 2 seconds or something. But anyway, we're ready to go. And here is the first image for Name That Game.
Oh, wow. That sure could be anything.
Rise of the Robots, no. Zelda Wand of Gamelon, no. X-Men vs. Street Fighter, no. Echo, no. Dark Souls 2, no. God of War, no. Mortal Shell, no. Don't forget, you only get one guess every 60 seconds, so make them count. Bioshock, no. That's a good guess, though.
Yeah, the ocean at the beginning of that.
God of War 2018, no. Metal Gear Rising, no. Control, no. Okay, I think we're going to go to image number 2. I made that one hard to figure out on purpose. This one's a little more obvious, and here we go. PS3 water sim with ducks, no. Tekken 6, no.
It kind of looks like Skyrim.
Ding, ding, ding! You won!
Hey.
Yeah, Matt!
What do you know?
Okay, they did just now appear. That's hard to judge whether you won or they won, honestly.
I mean, I don't care.
Yeah.
Give Erebus Jones some stickers or a game or whatever this is.
But you won for the first time in forever. Have you won before?
Yeah, like the first couple.
Yeah, you won like at least one before. Dang.
Because I was the first person to annoy you by getting it on the first one. And then the chat started doing it.
Well, Erebus Jones got the answer in first for Skyrim. So Erebus, we will absolutely give you your game. Congratulations. It's impressive that Straw Hut, I figured, like I said, this was going to be an easy one. I thought it might give it away, but I wasn't 100% sure that it would. There's your round of applause, Erebus Jones, for winning Name That Game. One of our most loyal sifters, so it's good to see you win one. And we'll just go through these images just for craps and giggles. That was the hut. What was it about that tipped you off, other than the fact that you played Skyrim like 80 times? I
mean, mostly the quality of what the straw looks like, plus like the runic stuff on the arch.
I left it in there on purpose, yeah. And there's like another thing like just out of frame there, like a little like nobule thing on the pole that I cropped out because I thought for sure it would give it away. But that was enough for you to get it. And some other people in chat, obviously. Here's the third one.
Yeah, that's...
You think you would have got it from that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's Whiterun, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Here's the fourth image. That one, I thought the trees would have easily given it away.
I mean, you might just get Skyrim off that just because of the nature of the environment.
That's true. And then this one definitely would have given it away. Because I included his horn down there in the bottom corner. And there you go. It's Skyrim. I've been thinking about using this game for a long time and Name That Game, and I haven't until now. And when I did it today, I was like, you know what? I think Matt's going to win today. Because I was like, if there's one game that Matt knows better than probably anyone else, it's got to be Skyrim.
Yeah, I probably have about 1,000 hours in that game.
Yeah. And a lot of you guys got it, basically. Like, Erebus got in before you guys, but Emperor Dread, you were right there with Skyrim. The Big Smoke 82 is right there with Skyrim.
A lot of people were waiting for their slow mode to reset, knew it when they saw that.
Yeah, but that's why we tell you, don't just guess willy-nilly. You got to make your guesses count. And then JM Rain came in with Skyrim. How you doing, man? Hope you're doing good. And who else had it? Oh, JM Rain, thank you for Twitch Prime, by the way. JM Rain, thank you for the Tier 1 subs. I guess you're going to be going back to school soon, or maybe you already did go back to school. He's a teacher, by the way. And hope you're going back to school is working out well for you. And now you guys are just getting into questions for Q&A. And we can't do a ton of Q&A because we're already at time, basically. And we still have to slide in Vincent's segment for Tinykin. So we can only answer a couple, but we will answer a couple. Let's see here. Squishy Muffin, which Skyrim was this? The special edition one changed the water texture. It actually was from like 3 different versions of Skyrim, those screenshots. They weren't all from the same version. AJ the Legend Watson, Shane, did you get enough participation questions for Ask Shane Anything? Yes, I got tons. You guys really delivered, man. There's like 17 questions waiting for me to answer just on Sifted alone, and there's more on our Patreon. So thank you guys. You guys knocked it out of the park. We had that up on the site over the weekend. Yes, and there will be an episode of Ask Shane Anything coming up here in the next couple days. So watch out for that. The Boomafu with the Crack Bros. I understood the game of Forever as the game you can play forever, similar to the one game on an island question. So what are yours? Games as a service, games can be included. So he's asking, what's your game of the forever?
So game of the forever just means the best game of all time.
Right. It's just like your favorite game. We just
as opposed to the game of the year.
Yeah, we just did this like last episode. I said
Talking about a Desert Island game, then I don't know. There is no game that would keep me entertained that long.
Yeah.
Also, if I have a game as a service, I'm just going to use it to call for help.
Well, I've also said, like, a Desert Island game for me, it has to be a multiplayer game where I can just keep playing it over and over.
But you could also just tell people you're on a desert island, come save me. Like,
in the chat. Then you'd be all pissed off because all the people who complain about chat, they removed it from the game and you can't do it anymore.
Somebody get on headset. What the fuck? You're like writing help in like bullet holes
on the wall. That's funny. And right on time, Grimshaw Rocks asked, should Nintendo do an HD remake of Ocarina of Time? Why haven't they? Well, they kind of did with...
They did the 3DS one, sort of. They probably should.
They should, though.
They should up-res that or just...
And I would not be surprised if it's in development right now and on the way. But you're right.
Yeah, they're about to hit another stretch where they have to tap dance until the next Zelda's ready. So get ready for the Twilight Princess HD, get ready for the Wind Waker HD, or get ready for an Ocarina and Majora's Mask remaster. I mean, you're coming up on the anniversary next year.
Yep.
25 years next year for Ocarina. So, I hope they do something.
One from Sneaky. A friend who watched 2 reviews for a game I recommend, and they put him off. But the game is 2 years old, so it's nothing like it was when reviewed. So it's like a game as a service. Do you think traditional reviews are dead in the way games are updated and changed weeks after launch? Most reviews don't even have the day one patch. Yeah, very few reviews go back and update. They always say that they will, and very few of them ever do. And I'm guilty of that, by the way, because I did that with the game eval for Red Dead Redemption 2. I said that I would go back and adjust the score once they released Red Dead Online, and they did, and I never went back and updated the game eval. And I probably should, because...
And now Red Dead Online is canceled.
Right, now it's
your fault.
But I will say this, Red Dead 2 could end up being one of the first games for a game eval that gets a 9 or above. Because now instead of that 0, it gets replaced with something.
But now it gets a 0 again.
Because it's gone.
Shut it down.
It's hilarious. It's funny. Yep. We'll answer one more and then we got to go. HMA 42 SFU. Thoughts on 3-4 Industries leadership change? So you saw Bonnie left.
Yeah. Now I do think it's encouraging. I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who's taking over is the guy who apparently spearheaded the fixing of Master Chief Collection, which is positive. So clearly he cares and knows what he's doing in that regard. But I don't know. It's hard not to see this as just more of the slow motion 10-year train wreck that this franchise has been going through over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I understand why Bonnie has had enough.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Well, I mean, it's a tough job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're dealing with people who have unrealistic expectations. They're acting as if the same studio's been making the franchise all the time. I have unrealistic expectations. I'll be honest. I'm part of the problem. I
expected co-op in the Halo game. Well, apparently that was unrealistic.
Right.
I expected to be entertained by the co-op.
I'll say this.
I'm very demanding. Apparently.
I am friends with a couple hundred big developers on Facebook. And when this news broke, every single one of them took the time out of their day to sing her praises. Literally every one of them. Like, a couple people who worked at 343 were, like, downtrodden, like, borderline crying over it. So she is beloved, and people have a ton of respect for her. But I agree with you, Matt. I think she left because she just got sick of dealing with the fan base.
Yeah, I mean, you can only do this so long. And
Yeah.
That's got to be a day in, day out stress, and she is good enough at her job that she could probably do that job or similar a lot of other places for the same or better money.
Yep.
And not nearly as much in a public spotlight.
Yep.
So I can't blame anyone who would choose that over being on the firing line of the Halo franchise for another however many years it takes.
She'll reappear.
Yeah,
with a much better job that she likes more, and it won't drive her crazy. She'll be back. I don't think it affects Halo all that much, though.
No, like I said, I think the guy stepping in to replace seems to be the best person for the job in the sense that he stepped up and made sure the Master Chief Collection got the treatment it needed. I mean, obviously, it took a long time, but they didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
That could have easily been like, cut your losses and move on. Yep. And they didn't. And apparently, it was this guy largely, insisting on that. So it's clearly someone who cares, someone who wants the best for the franchise and wants to give the fans what they want. So I don't think you can really ask for better than that, moving on from someone who is as well regarded and respected as Bonnie.
Yep, agreed. She's great.
It's probably not.
Her.
It's probably
it
not.
Wasn't her
terrible.
fault that the game is what it is.
Honestly probably not terrible news.
Yeah.
Outside of the fact that Halo has just struggled to sort of have an identity and a consistency for a long time.
Well, it's been. I think people would argue it's been consistently disappointing.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, true.
If there's anything
consistent in a good way, let's say.
Yeah.
But I mean, at least you can look at it this way. He knows what it takes to fix a very broken Halo product.
Yeah.
And here we go.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. Iviz, thank you for Twitch Prime. If I missed any of you guys who subscribe with Twitch Prime throughout the show, I apologize. I try to keep an eye on chat, but I know I missed some. It's always better if you wait till the end of the show, or you do it at the beginning when I have time to look for them. But anyway, that's GameFace 315. What a show. What a long show. 3 hours and 15 minutes. It's a beast, but I knew it was going to be because we were away for a week and things were just piling up. Tons of big stories, lots of stuff happening. Next week's episode should be a little more normal sized, and we will be back here at twitch.tv/siftedgames at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern next Tuesday. We're here every Tuesday at the same time. If you'd like to support us, if you're listening to the show on any of the podcast services, and the show's on all of them, or if you're watching the show on YouTube, you want to know how you can help us, just head to patreon.com/sifted. That's SIFTD without the E. You can pledge whatever you want there. You can just give us $1 because you just want to be nice. You can pledge a bunch of money because you want to support us and you want to see us grow. Whatever you want to do, it's cool with us. We appreciate every dollar. It's awesome. If you don't have any money to contribute, that's totally cool. You can still help us if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber with Twitch Prime. If you're watching the show on YouTube, the instructions to help us do that are right below. It does take a couple minutes your first time because you have to sign up and connect your accounts. After that, it's literally two clicks, and you can do it in like 5 or 10 seconds. So we'd really appreciate that. Anything you guys can do to help, we appreciate every single one of you. So good to be back. Good to be with our awesome chat, talking games with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. Good to be back with Matt talking games. And we'll be here for the entire month of September and the first couple weeks of October before I take vacation in mid-October. And then after that, it's just a full-on pile drive through Q4. So thanks to everybody who showed up. Thanks for all your bits, all your Amazon Prime subscriptions, all of it. It all adds up. It all makes a difference. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. GameFace is up and out.